You might have to give me 1 second, people, just because I think with the new YouTube thing, it's a little broken. All right, sweet. What's up, people? How y'all doing? It's been a bit. I've been just kind of tired between school and work. I've technically, had time, but not time that I felt like streaming. And I do have work tomorrow as well, so I don't know exactly how long this will be. So let's see. Newspapers. Man, I really don't. I want to say China, but I don't know if that's going to be the case, actually. I feel like probably China. But they gotta get newspapers places fast. So it might not be. Ooh, yeah, goddamn. Oh no, the US. Yeah, okay, we're up there. We're number 1, actually. Okay, damn. Germany, number 2. All right. Italy, number 6. Poland's number 5. Okay, the UK and France. I can live with that. 6 billion knit t-shirts, knit sweaters, plastic lids, electrical capacitors, and toilet paper. Honduras. Fuck. Wait, right below Honduras is Nicaragua, right? I think, I hope. God damn it. Yo, what's up, immigration combo with Daniel, I'm assuming. I realized this when writing the title, but I didn't know how else to put it. I mean, to be clear, Daniel DiMartino was in a Jubilee video, which we are reacting to. But I wanted I wanted Jubilee to be the first word. And I wanted to mention Daniel DiMartino's in it. So I chose the phrasing I did. But I think it is kind of misleading. But welcome back, Ryan. Oh, shit, for real? What the fuck? Yeah, I know. They put him on MAGA side, which I don't know, might just be a unfortunate, when I say that, I mean, they, in the title, they have, 2 MAGA versus 2 Democrat or whatever. What's up, Bio? Welcome back. And I don't think he would self-brand as MAGA. I think that's just kind of an unfortunate, MAGA versus liberal. Yeah, unfortunate kind of branding, Jubilee branding thing. So yeah. Will they coffee strike me? Will they coffee strike me, guys? Very well, Mike.
Are you saying that Trump...
I'm assuming Daniel sort of mogged them. He seems to be way more well-read than those 2 liberal dudes. Yeah, these 2, I think it depends. I haven't watched it yet. I haven't even seen clips of it. It'll be interesting because I think they talk about stuff that I wouldn't necessarily consider Daniel's strong suit, other than I think they talk about Iran at one point. Or they talk about topic 5, it's Benjamin Netanyahu, and topic 6 is Iran versus Trump. And those are things I think Daniel will talk about. He talks a fair amount about foreign policy. in supporting Trump's foreign policy. But the other stuff I think is not necessarily Daniel Martino's strong suit. So although he is well read, I'm curious to see how well he does on some of the other things. Which also unfortunately means, by the way, I think some of it's going to be stuff. Okay, what a thought. Original hair lib. Lib content creators been getting dunks on Trump bad slop. Pays good, but weakens you rhetorically. I feel like the rhetoric there is usually really good, actually. I think it weakens you intellectually. You see Box dunking on soy? Yeah, you mean like the Wick panel? Yeah, brutal. Yeah. Oh shit, what'd I do? Oh shit, I'm gone. Oh shit, everything's gone. Fuck. They killed me. Intellectually might be the right term, yeah. Like I think Fawn died. They killed everyone, guys. Shit, I'm back. Okay, hold on. Duplicate. Boom. Boom. Then we take this. We put it. I don't know, like this. We take this. And we put it like this. We put Frank right there. Gotta be a better layout. Fun, can you become the shrimp? I mean, I got the shrimp costume back there. Is that what you mean? Haven't you asked before, Mio? Shit, what's his name? Oh, yeah. I feel like Dean and Harry and Chris, I think this guy's name is Chris. I think it's Chris. Do like pretty well rhetorically, but it's all against like, you know, TikTok slop debates, which you know, I guess I do my fair share of now. But yeah.
I'm saying that he certainly enabled it, yeah. Really, Dr. Fauci working with this intent that Republicans have to prosecute him. And all of this is happening through because this administration is going so poorly, we have to relitigate 2020.
Yeah, just crawl inside its mouth. I mean, it is like a costume. Like I said, I'll do it for like $5 to the Shrimp Welfare Project.
I'm Harry Sisson, and I'm a liberal political commentator. I'm Chris Mowry. I'm a progressive Democrat and a political commentator.
I am Daniel Martino, and I am a conservative economist and fellow at the Manhattan Institute.
I'm Brian Hollihan. I'm a conservative author and political commentator, and you're watching Roundtable.
What does the turnout among Democrats in this primary tell?
Like, they both brand themselves as conservative. I don't know about this guy. But, like, Daniel DiMartino, I don't think would otherwise self-describe as MAGA. Like, I feel like if I was in a Jubilee video, there might be a world in which I'm in a Jubilee video and they were, like, brand me as a progressive, even though I would not. Suit equals Republican, this is true, even though I would not self-describe as a progressive. Yeah, I feel like if actually economically grounded, non-Trump conservatives showed up, Libs would be super unprepared, though. Yeah, I think they... Especially, it'd be interesting. Like, Daniel DiMartino has done a... I haven't, like, actually read a ton into it. It's done, like, quite a bit of stuff on immigration. And he's, like, you know, compared to many Republicans, by nature, just, like, kind of being high human capital, okay, and being an economist. Daniel DiMartino is the smartest person on this panel, almost certainly. He's going to be, like, more pro-immigration than a lot of them. But he's like more anti-immigration than the Cato Institute. Like, he has... disagreements about the fiscal effects of immigration, which I think Alex Nowrasteh responded to, and I think Daniel DiMartino responded to the response. You know, I think they've had a back and forth. But I know a lot of the, like, TikTok rhetoric libs just kind of spout out some of the, like, undocumented immigrants like pay $100 billion in taxes or whatever. And Daniel DiMartino would be, like, especially prepared for that. But I don't know if they're going to walk into that trap. Because apparently they're talking about Abdullah Saeed first.
The turnout extraordinary.
Is no, he's this one, the blue shirt.
I mean, it was a record-setting turnout, at least as we look back to 1998 or so, for a non-presidential primary. So the turnout says to me that Democrats really across the board, if you're an establishment Democrat, a progressive Democrat, you are eager to weigh in, sort of voice your opinion against the Trump administration's policies. And I think to a person, Pamela, the voters we talked to yesterday talked about trying to send a message to the Trump administration.
I bet this is Daniel's prompt, actually. It could not be.
And have a voice against the Trump policies. But we are here in Michigan, of course, to state that Donald Trump won in 2024. He lost.
It's on such a fucking anchor drag.
But Democrats are enthused. There's no doubt.
Oh, he finally, it's bad when he got a. I always forget his last name. I'm sorry, David. I always forget your last name. Okay, it's because am racist. David made a video about. I saw it making the rounds on Twitter. David's another we're buddies. A TikTok liberal creator debater dude.
About it. A question is those independent voters in the middle, how they will react to this race between Abdul El-Sayed and Mike Rogers. And of course, we should point out the broader context of this is Democrats must hold Michigan and flip for Republican Senate seats if they are going to win control of the Senate. So certainly it is possible. It is a tough political environment for Republicans. The president's approval rating is as low as we have seen it, but it is not an easy.
Almost were too afraid to criticism. They look so bad to criticize him. Oh yeah.
Now in November,
The country will be far better off if Democrats take control of the Senate this November.
Oh no. What was I gonna say? Oh, I think it's Is it unfortunate that Hassan will probably to some extent even overestimate his actual impact on the Democratic Party? He will kind of gloat about certain things, about the impact he has. But then he's I understand why he is it, because I think he's just ideologically opposed to Democrats on the most basic levels. But he just takes no care to present well. In probably important events, probably things he knows could very well end up on Fox News and makes Democrats look bad. But what are you gonna do, guys? What are you gonna do?
Not shocking? Yeah, it's about what we expected. All right, so look, Donald Trump promised no new wars. He promised the golden age of America. I think a lot of people are struggling. Inflation is up. Unemployment is up. There's a war in Iran.
Guys, I want to test out. Brian Holland or whoever or whatever is too lucky to be debating along with someone confident. Is that the other conservative dude? Yeah, I've seen him before, but I don't remember his name. Either he causes a Michigan L or we get a Michigan W and learn the wrong lessons and think it's not useful, which is another L. I'm just worried about, I just don't like, God, was it, what's his name? Mike Rogers? Come out in favor of a data center moratorium? Because he wants to compete better. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm more honestly just and I don't know if there's anything you can do to stop it. Okay. I don't know how big the marginal impact of any of that stuff is going to be, but I just think there's just a damage and he did. Yeah. I would kind of doubt he would really go through with it. I don't know. And also, he's a senator. He's one senator. He doesn't actually have that much control over the state. And in order to do a federal ban, which apparently I don't support a federal ban, you need a lot more people to do that. But I'm just worried about the brain worm spreading. That's honestly what I worry more about. The hell is this?
We got that.
Is this an important guy, or is it? He's posting on Blue Sky. It can't be that important. Yeah, this is a nobody, right?
Have water to drink, bathe, wash clothes, give to our livestock.
Oops, hold on. Fuck. Boom.
They can't take everything from us.
Oh no.
We wanted all of our family to be up here. That's what they worked so hard for 35 years, was to have.
By the way, just remind me, I think I'm going to engage in a little side project, guys. Okay, I'm going to engage in a little side project. I'm just going to show up to every fucking planning board meeting and every, I forget what the other board is called. I think it's just Board of Commissioners meeting that our county has. And I'm just going to rant about NIMBYism. Okay. That's the I just read some of the minutes that they released for the the summary of the meetings they had, and it's just every single fucking person is just boomer saying, oh my God, we cannot possibly let a single apartment home be built in this goddamn county because it might have some negligible impact on my farmland, or it might have some these are the type of neighborhoods that people don't want to live in for very long. It's just like so horrible. I'm just gonna like show up and like just like Brian Kaplan Max and just be like, you want your children to live near you? Okay, you have to let people build homes. Okay, you can't constrain production without constraining consumption. Okay, but every city council meeting and do public comments in favor of data centers and housing. This is true. This space. I'm going to do that. I mean, data centers, I don't think is on the ballot right now. There are people talking. There are like flock cameras that people have been showing up for city council meetings for. Because they want to put, I don't actually know where it stands, but there's some talk of putting flock cameras in our towns.
Have land for us where we could be.
So I think I'm going to start just showing up to them and just like ranting. What if I gets to flock camera discourse? Basically about, well, Nava's ideology, pro flock, pro data center. It's true. It's true. I'm like semi-agnostic on flock. I think I lean towards some being net positive. From the evidence I've seen, but I'm more just like, there's a more general concern I have, which is just like, once the infrastructure exists, you know, how it's kind of hard not to abuse it. I think, like, I'm not saying we're going to become fucking CCP China overnight. Did you read the Richard Anani article on flock? Yeah, I did. But like, there are like some general concerns I have of just like, even if I don't think flock cameras right now are used for abuse that often, and when they are, the cost of the abuse is probably just like trivial compared to the benefits that they bring. You know, there's like a more general concern, which is like having that type of infrastructure in place such that the government could conceivably do some pretty fuck shit if they wanted to. So flock specifically is sketchy and questionably illegal in legal effect. But people generally like it. People generalize it to like red light cameras, which is dumb. Sure. I also think, it's like, you know, I'm sure there's some concerns with corruption and everything in during the current administration. Although flock stuff is like mostly local level, but and what some of the argument people made, or some of the argument, I'm assuming. MAG people did argue that MAGA, that catching petty crime is so much better than heavy enforcement. So it's infrastructure for that, but I do understand the issue is, yeah.
Around.
I also think, obviously, like, we also don't want every law to be perfectly enforced. like one of my concerns with AI genuinely, and I don't know how likely this has come to fruition, it's just that, like, what if, like, the FBI and it just gets, like, good enough infrastructure given AI to stop like almost all piracy, right? It is like, I think the optimal number of piracy I should be able to do is above 0. You know, I think it's like I should be able to, as a little treat, you know, use Sci-Hub, download a free paper every now and then. Okay, every now and then. It's like every fucking you know, weekly basis at minimum, but.
And with our children.
Oh, argument mag. Oh, okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about, yeah.
And children. The line is going to be about 463 feet from the back door. And once it's here, it's no getting rid of it. What the
And there was some Substack article about how the optimal number of crimes. Yeah, this is a Decker article, right?
farmers going to do with all this radiation messes up the crops.
True.
Or the livestock. I mean, they don't have any statistics on that either. Drill 40
I probably do.
ground and hit the vein that my well fills up with, I won't have any water.
I'm sorry, what is this? This is a transmission line? Statistic 0.
Where am I going to get it from? You know, we don't exactly have fire hydrants out here. I don't.
Yes, it's an electrical line. Yeah, I just want to make sure I didn't miss something. Where's the radiation coming from? I'm just confused.
I know Trump thinks the data centers are going to be great, but it's
we had to tie data centers into it.
us at all. It's just
True. And that's what the statistics say.
Destroying property is destroying family.
Is it destroying property? Really? Really? I'm sure there are above 0 cases of someone being... So photons, yeah, photons are radiation. Or radiation.
Look it up. You know, pay attention to Facebook and the media and really read about it and see what it's
The media.
doing.
Hoping to represent this area.
I want you to fight for us as hard as you can. I'm not a speaker. You know, I just speak from the heart. And the
I'm sure this lady is at every city council
first
meeting.
meeting I went to, and all the people would get
I'm becoming strangely more pro AI over time in a weird way. That OpenAI hack story made me so curious.
talking,
I mean, I think that should update you towards being more worried about AI. But yeah.
and I was just sitting and thinking, we love it here.
Well, we're with you on this.
Thank
That's
you
for
so
sure.
much.
We really,
I really,
are.
really appreciate
Well,
you
Oh my God.
mean it.
Thank you.
I really
Oh, he got ratioed. What kills me about this completely insane video is that you're so clearly trying to pretend this isn't wealthy white retirees in the country panicking because they think allowing a single-phase infrastructure to be built within sight of their home means they're going to live in a ghetto. I'm using a slide at the next city council meeting. God, kill me. The fear excites me. And now we definitely need to develop AI cybersecurity everywhere, lol. Yeah. But like that's what but I'm just so but they're gonna get rid of my Sci-Hub, they're gonna get rid of my what else do I use? Anna's archive. What if I can't upload books to Anna's archive anymore, bro?
That was supposed to last 2 or 3 weeks. We're going on month 6. My question is, I have no idea how you can argue that Donald Trump should have more power and be able to pass more legislation. I mean, the answer is that he needs to be a lame duck president, and Democrats need to be able to investigate.
So I lived with my parents like 20, 30 minutes away, and there was a city planning debate about a development project that would be shopping with apartments on the top, and people complained a ton, parking, shadows, etc. And so eventually the council dropped it. Incredible. The developers lowered the height by 6 feet. Oh, and so the council... So eventually the council approved it if the developers lowered the height by 6 feet. They were unable to make that pencil in within building code, so now no housing got built. My mother blamed the developer. Incredible! I love the state of the way. I love boomer thought. I love localism. God. But yeah, real quick. These are just like some of the minutes. Matthew Parker raised several concerns. The risk of overburdening infrastructure, particularly the East Moore Water District, beyond its capacity for existing residents. The inadequacy of some stormwater management designs seen in the county. And I don't know why stormwater management is such a big deal, apparently, but there's apparently a lot of debates about stormwater management. Even though I don't know how people have the time, honestly. I mean, I guess they're boomers, but... And the importance of directing growth towards municipalities that wish to host it. Like dog, what are we doing? A farmer? Oh, I know, the farmer. Landowner? I mean, that and just like fucking entitled as fuck. Like, I don't know what else to like say, but they're all like the agricultural land is so important, and you know, a fucking... You can't ever do anything that would decrease the value of my farm. It's just like, I'm sorry. You're just like not... You're just like not entitled to that. Like, I'm sorry, but the farming output of like Moore County, all things considered, okay, it's just like not that... It's just like not that important. All right. Terry Bryant Giga Chat. It's horrible. Now, do I at the meetings do the meme, the full Brian Kaplan Max, and say, y'all, you know, you could move to the middle of nowhere. Okay, you could move to the middle of nowhere. Now, I don't think you should, or like, I'm not saying I think you should. I just think the fact that you choose not to means that like the net externality is probably positive, right? It's just, you know, you're willing to pay more or the same to, you know, stay where you are and get the benefits and the cost of living near all the new development, right? But I think boomers would just, I think they would all just like hate that. I get booed.
The the outward corruption that we're seeing and put a stop to some of the other things I mentioned.
Well, the answer's simple. It's the same reason that so many Democrats are leaving your party and voting for Republicans in a state like Michigan. Michigan, you just had a Senate nominee who you should be proud of, Abdul
Is that true? Is that true? Hashtag, is that true? Which is why you pay property tax.
Syed, right? One of his famous comments just a few months ago was that he was mourning the loss of
I'm going to show up and argue for property tax increases.
the Ayatollah. So should we pause right now and have a moment of silence for the Ayatollah? Because your proud Democrat nominee did so, and that's the kind of commentary that you want to be in the Senate. He endorsed commentary
Have you considered that Trump said praise Allah?
that 9/11 is okay. He endorsed commentary that we should have the police did so, and that's the kind of commentary that you want to be in the Senate. He endorsed commentary that 9/11 is okay. He endorsed commentary that
I'm not. Is that with reference to Hassan? I'm confused. He endorsed commentary that 9/11 is okay. What is that with reference to?
that we should have the police abolished, the prison should be abolished. If you have this kind of thing and you want that to be in the Senate,
I don't know if Abdul Aziz. I just genuinely don't know off the top of my head if he ever strictly endorsed any of them. It's all Hassan. It's all connected. Any of the most insane DSA things. Fuck, I don't. It's just gonna be like slop if I look it up. Look at that spelling, incredible. He hasn't. He just refuses to distance himself. Yeah, sure.
Has failed to deal with real problems and has.
But it's not even quite like Zorhan's okay. At least Zorhan, we got all the clips of him saying, "Our prison's obsolete." Okay. Mass release of criminals during prison abolition webinar. This is September 2020. Okay, so we do got the clips of the Al Said guys. Part of Al Said's argument hinged on the notion that overcrowded prisons pose a public health risk during COVID-19. He endorsed continuing to let people out of correctional facilities even after the pandemic has passed. Well,
I get if it's a fringe on the outside, you can distance yourself from it. If you have somebody come in to be your nominee, if you guys want to take away from them and say you're not going to vote for him, we would love it because Republicans for Mike Rogers and Democrats for Mike Rogers is through the roof happening. And we've seen the momentum on social media.
I would love to see any type of statistics that suggest that there's momentum around that. And I'd say that a lot of what you said is disingenuous, which I can get into in a second. But you didn't address the fact that obviously you would understand why people are upset and want Democrats in power.
But you understand why people be upset.
But can you address the fact that inflation is high, the economy is
Can I ask how a Democrat?
oh no, they brought up the economy. Oh no. I think the route to go would just be the corruption issues. I think you could argue. Now, personally, I don't think Al Said would cross this line. That maybe there's some line Democrats could cross where you wouldn't vote for them in the Senate. But I'm just I just think that probably the marginal benefit of just having an extra Democratic vote in the Senate to just hopefully fucking. I don't know if the Senate can subpoena. I think the House has to subpoena, but investigate or convict or impeach anyone, please, goddamn. It's probably bigger than whatever the marginal impact of them is going to be with regards to things like the ultra woke policies or the ultra progressive economic policy, which I think kind of, unfortunately. Some of the stuff is Abdul Said is just not that far away from the rest of the party on things like Medicare for all and such.
Solve any of the problems you mentioned?
Well, sure, in two ways. Number one, you effectively make Donald Trump a lame duck president. So something like the Save America Act, for example, could.
What does that have to do with inflation?
Well, I'm saying if Donald Trump.
Nothing, right?
Well, no, he does broadly, on these different issues that he just mentioned.
No, but how is a Democrat Senate going to stop any war or lower inflation?
Two reasons. Number one, obviously Donald Trump has his really only major success in Congress.
But the resolution is about a Democrat Senate. So how is a Democrat Senate going to help
I'm just saying, obviously he can't pass, for example.
Oh no.
I'm just giving one example. More massive tax cuts for rich people that are not helping your average American. But number two.
Oh no. I don't actually know if Daniel Martino thinks the big beautiful bill is good on net because he might be worried about the deficit, but I think they should have just stuck to. I don't know why they brought up the economy at first, or they should have. I think either stuck to corruption or when they just been more specific when he asks about the benefits. Just say make him a lame duck president and that you don't allow him to, do a lot of things. The tariffs, the national are all reliant on national emergencies that Congress can overrule, things things of that nature.
I think had a lot more power to issue subpoenas and investigate the broad outward corruption we are seeing that is negatively impacting.
Oh, true. There we go.
Don Jr. and Eric Trump Jr.
They listened.
are
They heard.
with either 16 or 17 different companies right now that they've invested in that have.
So it's about the corruption. So it's about the corruption.
It's a bribery. But can we just quickly ask, are you guys okay with the amount of stock trades that Donald Trump has made, the amount of money that Donald Trump has made, the amount of money that his family has made?
I think all government employees should be banned. That includes the president. If nobody's really above the law, I'd love to say the president's included just as much as Nancy Pelosi. She loses half of her fortune if she lost her millions, if she's lost in stock trading. She hasn't voted for it yet. I think we should all be in support of something like that. But you specifically mentioned lame duck, and that's what's going to happen if the Senate, has an opportunity to be taken over by some of these radicals in your party that are no nominees. But that has gridlock. What you're not telling the audience is nothing.
Wouldn't that happen regardless of whether or not they were radical Democrats? Do we think the moderate Democrats are going to vote for the SAVE Act? Like,
Will get done. Congress has the lowest approval rating it's ever had, and you're going to want it to do less. You're going to want less things to happen. The question here is not just, oh, we have these promises, here's some fairy tales, this might happen, this could happen, vote for us, and this could happen. Let's look at what happens, okay? Last time,
he doesn't look happy right now.
the Senate, there was 40-year inflation at 9%.
Oh,
we're actively in a war. We're in a war right now.
Okay.
I think we
Well,
should
it was Democrats that lost spending.
We're in a war right now that I think we should get out of, okay? We're not at 9% in a war. During peacetime, you had us at 9%, so why ever would the
what was happening around that
COVID.
so when there was global inflation.
And the
Harry,
president...
why was there no inflation in Switzerland after COVID? No, why was there no inflation in Switzerland?
What was your response to inflation at the time, the Inflation Reduction Act? Biden is proud of it. No, the Congressional office came out and said, how much came from that opportunity of Inflation Reduction Act? $0.00 of inflation was reduced. $0.00. You were really good at putting
taking
dates
issue
and
with the name of the bill.
The Inflation Reduction Act was like probably basically neutral on inflation. I do think the American Rescue Plan was probably broadly inflationary, although you could argue, I'm not certain whether it was a net benefit or not. I'm probably leaning against it being a net benefit, but like, given the time that we were in, certainly some of those things made sense to spend, just probably not nearly as much as the American Rescue Plan ended up spending. I'm not that sure the raw economy is that bad, but voter buying gas prices is bad. That's because war, so for voters it's bad. Yeah, I don't actually think the underlying, like, the broader economy is like that bad, all things considered, okay? I think it's probably got to a bit worse since Trump's been elected. I think I don't even think it's like that. Saying I don't think it's that relevant as that is kind of not what I want to say. I don't think you shouldn't reason from just the overall state of the economy, right? Like, it's probably better to just be like, hey, regardless of like whether overall we're at 9% inflation right now, like, it just seems like we have pretty good evidence that like tariffs in the past have raised prices, and like these tariffs are raising prices too, and like that's bad. And they probably have some negative effect on employment as well. That's probably bad. Things like that.
Do you support the Inflation
Yeah, I
Reduction
do, because there's a lot of good things in it. There's a lot of good things in it. It's the largest investment fighting climate change in American history and world
because
history.
our generation saw that, and they're going to say, oh, look, they're going to come back in, they're going to put fancy titles on things, they have full
But the problem with the Democrat Senate is who are the Democrats that would take the Senate? It would be Abdullah Sayed, who is an Islamist socialist who hates this country, who hangs out with Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11, who supports Mao Zedong.
Oh no. Hassan Piker. Oh no, we got it. I would say, bro, no new wars, and he did war. That's true.
World history. Wait a minute, it's not just Abdul. Troy Jackson.
I think Chillin and Martino had a debate with Micah Irfan about this, but I think you should also be concerned about the legality of the war and the or I think they talked about the Venezuelan boat strikes, which you should also be concerned about the legality of. I think probably more so than the Iran war, but I think the Iran war is also like questionably illegal, although not in like a probably kind of the manner in which the Iran war is illegal is probably like more, I don't want to say acceptable, but like more, we're just like kind of granted the president some, like a lot of power there that I think is like more questionable with regards to the boat strikes. Is AES actually an Islamist? Like, that's a specific thing? I don't think so. Like, he is Muslim, but I don't think he's fairly characterized as an Islamist.
Maine, who is also a DSA candidate. I mean, do you guys support the Democratic Socialists of America?
We think that any of these Democrats should be elected to office, especially when you have Republican lunatics
Do you
in the
think
Senate.
socialists should be in the Senate?
I'm not done yet. One sec. When you have Republican lunatics
Answer the question.
Wait,
It's
I'm in the
simple.
middle of answering something.
Yes or no? Should socialists be in the Senate? Oh no. We totally glossed over the legality of the Venezuelan operation. Yeah. Which is why having the Senate might be important, guys. It might be important. Okay, they could like stop things like that.
Okay, you're going to say it. Okay, hopefully.
I think that these people should get elected, especially when you have Republican senators like Ted Cruz and others who voted to overturn presidential elections. I feel like that's just something that consistently gets ignored in this conversation. You're talking about radicals, you're talking about fringe. How about
Do you think Susan Collins is a radical?
Yeah,
Really?
I think Susan Collins rubber stamps a lot of what Donald
So
Trump
do you
wants.
think Troy Jackson is fine because he's
I think
a socialist?
any of these Democratic nominees voting against the things that Donald Trump wants to do, like the SAVE Act, is good for America. So you have Republican lunatics in the Senate right now, like Ted Cruz, who voted to overturn an election. You're laughing. I mean, do you think that's a funny matter? Do you think overturning elections is a good thing?
You shook your head and you denied when he read out statements that your proud nominee Abdullah Sayed said. You laughed and kind of scoffed your head when he
Ooh, they won't answer that though.
hasn't removed him.
I want to answer that, okay? think a lot of your guys are crazy too. Unfortunately, that's the issue. Why should I have confidence that many of at least the most crazy ones would vote to certify the next election? Right? It's like I don't have faith that they would, and on the local level or the state level, I also don't have faith that they would do that.
Himself from Hassan Piker. He hasn't distanced himself. Do y'all two right now?
So two things. Number one, I think Hassan Piker's fine. I have issues with Hassan Piker, but generally I like him. But again, like,
Oh no! Oh shit!
I think it's fine to condone. I will respond to that. That's what you said. I want to give you a chance to back away from it.
I will respond to that.
Perfect.
Again, there's some things about Hassan Piker that I don't love. But a comment from him 7 years ago that he has apologized for, that he
That sounds moving. Oh no!
clearly in context was just trying to argue that something like 9/11 doesn't happen in a vacuum. I don't think there was any suggestion from Hassan.
What about
Wow.
He's not campaigning with them. He's not just a commentator on the finish. He's only campaigning. Please finish. I'd love to hear you defend somebody that's defending 9/11. Please do that. Yes.
Again, I don't think that Hassan Piker and a comment that he made 7 years ago, just trying to explain that something like that doesn't happen in a vacuum. Again, we zoom out and look at the actual question about Democrats winning the Senate. We're talking about why wouldn't you distance yourself from Hassan Piker?
I was a little bit worried we were gonna get when you zoom out and actually look at the history of American imperialism and actually make. Oh no.
Hassan Piker, whether you love him or hate him, and Abdul al-Sayed are talking about issues that matter to the American people. And again, when it comes to Democrats winning the Senate, part of the reason this is happening is because, and I know you know this, you're not going to win arguing on he said or she said 7 or 8
What's up, Big Jerry? Welcome back.
years ago, while the American people struggle with higher prices, when the American people don't have health care, when there's a forever war going on, and Donald Trump explicitly promised two things: the golden age of America and
I am unfortunately, I don't think it's efficient, but like I am unfortunately concerned that Republicans can indeed win on a Hassan bad message. Okay, unfortunately, I am worried about the boomers responding well to that messaging. Do any of these libs not really have any idea how many backclips of Hassan exist? I don't know how much they know, because these are like TikTok people. So they're not in the same like sphere or whatever. I really don't know if they know anything about him, or if they just like rely on what other like TikTok people like tell them to do. But, but I think it's just like so. I don't know if you know a bit about Hassan. Like even if you grant that 9/11 comment fully, it's just like he does just support almost any anti-Western like action and group, and like he might say like in principle he doesn't think civilians should be harmed, but like he also, this is in I guess the Israel-Palestine context, but I think obviously there's some underlying anti-Western motivation that like we can't police resistance. We can't tell indigenous groups whether their resistance movement is like right or wrong, but
no new wars, and we have neither of those two things.
And what did you both ignore at the very top? What was the very first thing?
Wait, you just ignored election denialism.
Nobody, you didn't answer my question for 3 minutes.
it's not even that they're too young. I just don't know if they like. I think they just like specialize in their area, so I just don't know if they know much about Hassan.
I specifically asked if we need to have a moment of silence. We might still need to be in right now for Abdul, because he out of his.
What's up, Infinity Sorka? Welcome back. We can't yet, but with more AI data centers, we'll be able to. It's true.
Just weeks ago, when the Ayatollah was killed,
Do you think we should warn the Ayatollah?
Yes, nobody thinks we should warn the Ayatollah. But
Abdul does.
Well, wait, no, you're talking to us right now. You're not talking to us. You're not talking to Abdul al-Sayed. You guys are focusing on a political commentator who's not running for office. How about we look at some Republicans who have actually run for office? So Andy Ogles said Muslims don't belong in America, homosexuals don't belong in America. Donald Trump endorsed him. That's some extreme rhetoric. Yes.
I didn't endorse the guy. Yes. You endorsed Abdul al-Sayed, and he out of his mouth, not Hassan Piker, not a commentator. Abdul said that we should warn the Ayatollah, the #1 state-sponsored terrorism. Who says?
Would you vote for him in the Senate? If he was the general election nominee? I'm curious. Against like regular standard normie moderate Democrat, like.
Death to America. We think we should pause the moment of silence. You not yet have said that.
What's the full comment? What did Abdul actually say?
He said that we should mourn the death of the Ayatollah.
Quote?
That was the quote.
He said the context was the sentence before and after.
On the day that
I don't know the full quote. I don't care that much. Is Abdul al-Sayed also a doctor? He like is not a doctor in the sense that he had like actual patients, right? I think there's a big controversy over that. I do remember a bit about just because he. Oh fuck! Fuel up first on Fawn. What's up, Tuck Destiny fan? Hold on, I got my monster here. You're right. I was actually just. That's what you mean. Okay, so so I was just about to say. Oh fuck, yeah. I do actually have to feel it, but it's fine. I have enough.
it happened. He came out and said that we as a community should mourn the dead. You think that we as a community should mourn?
And what's the before and after sentence?
That was the quote.
Sorry, I didn't think anything was paying anyone was paying attention to me playing John Gleeb.
That was quoted.
What's the sentence before? No, you're not, because there's a sentence before. No, I'm asking you because you're making a claim. What's the sentence before and after?
I just read it out to you.
You don't know. That's the thing.
I do
You're
know.
taking a quote.
Wait, it's okay if he said that? Is that
No,
what you're saying?
wait. I'm asking you for context here.
I just gave you context.
No, you didn't.
I gave you the date. I gave you the commentary that he said.
Probably the most deceptive way you can be a doctor, but technically legit lie. It is definitely like deceptive. It is definitely like lie. I think it's fair to consider it like a lie. I think he's like intentionally misleading people, but it's not, it's you know, it's a lie that like a politician would say like, you know, 10 years ago. Actually more than that, because Trump's been around for more than 10 years. Okay. But it's not, it's not like the 2020 election was stolen. Okay. It's not, I finally hit 16.5 E35 in John Cleave. Holy shit. It's not like the election was stolen. It's not like the fucking Obama was born in Kenya. Okay. So he's Democrat Rand Paul. Sure.
What's the before sentence? What did he say after it?
Somebody must have asked him about it. He responded with, I think that we should mourn the death.
And the people at home will fact check this at home. So you're saying that Abdul Saeed only said one
Doesn't he? I forget what exactly he has, but it's not like he didn't like have many actual patients, but he does like have some type of physician's like license, right? Like, isn't it like he probably could have been a doctor if he really wanted to? Like, I forget the details, and I'm playing John Gleep right now.
sentence, which is you should mourn the Ayatollah.
What
And nothing else.
You're okay with
And nothing else.
But you're not saying on the page. You haven't answered my question once. It's yes or no, guys.
I really think it's disingenuous for you to bring up a sentence that Abdullah said maybe or maybe did not say. People at home will fact check this because there's a sentence before and after that you're not including, and it's
What could
disingenuous.
possibly made that okay?
Wait, I don't even believe that he said it in the way that you're saying it. So I'm asking for
Can I
context.
tell you
You're
what he
able to
said?
provide it.
Can I tell you what he said? What he
Absolutely.
said is that there are people who are very sad in my community, in this community, Dearborn, because of the death of the Ayatollah. I don't think that it's acceptable for somebody running for the Senate of the United States to say that we should not comment on the death of the Ayatollah mass murder because there happen to be some Muslim radicals living in Michigan who mourn the death of the Ayatollah. I think that's a very reasonable position I have. I think most Americans don't mourn the death of the Ayatollah. I think it's good riddance. And the senator is afraid of voters of saying that is really
And
concerning.
if Hassan said it, just be another comment. It'd be in the trash. And that's with him. He's a commentator.
Okay. He is like the head of the religion though, right? Like I'm gonna forget which one's Sunni, which one's Shia. I believe it is Shia. But he is like formally the head of the Shia religion, right? I forget what it's not supreme leader. That's a political title, right? But what's the religious title? Grand Ayatollah? Or this? I don't know how to pronounce this.
And your candidate. It's the only reason I bring it up.
And that's great, but just to go back
not
to
great, it's
wait, I'm saying to your point, that's great, wonderful. But to go back to the prompt, we're talking about a Democratic Senate as a whole. You guys are
You'll be
focusing
one of those Democratic
100%. You guys are focusing on one senator, but you take issues with people like, let me bring it back. Do you take issues with people like Ted Cruz who voted to overturn elections? Yes or no?
You know, Ted, well, first, he's not running for election, and I don't.
But he's
Because
in the
Ted Cruz is a great senator.
Cool, great. And what about you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he has not
Okay,
overturned
great.
the election, by the way.
And you condemn Donald Trump for trying to overturn the 2020 election?
I condemn the violent rioters that were there on 9/11.
Whoa. Time out. That's not the question.
He won't do it. He won't do it. He won't do it.
Overturn the 2020
I
election.
stand by the
with the
Democratic process. Just as Democrats.
Senate.
Wait. So this is who won the 2020 election, brother?
Joe Biden.
He won, fair and square. Yes.
Because
Fair and
they
square.
went through a democratic process where they had the opportunity to do that. Just like Democrats in the past have stood up and opposed elections. Republicans are allowed to as well. Just like Ted Cruz did. What happened at the Capitol?
That's interesting. You know, if Trump wanted to, you know, just have some senators sign on to an objection to the electoral vote with some representatives, or I think the representatives have to find a senator to do it with, right? You know, it's like they could have done that. Okay, when the Democrats did it, there was never. I don't want to say never, but I don't believe there was ever a senator that signed on to any of those objections. So they just like went nowhere. But the plan wasn't to follow the Electoral Count Act and have people bring objections. The plan was to break the Electoral Count Act, right? In fact, Trump wanted Pence to go with like the most extreme plan to just flat out declare him the winner, right? Whereas like he's been wanted them to just adjourn for 10 days and send the alternate quote unquote electors back to the states and try to have them certify them. So, you know.
Brooks and discussed it, but it was. We can acknowledge that everybody that beats a cop should be under jail.
Okay, great.
But it's not
And,
the
and, and, and are you condemn Donald Trump?
Wait, sorry. we acknowledge that they should be in jail? What happened to that, by the way?
Was gross and disgusting, but it was. We can acknowledge that everybody that beats a cop should be under a jail.
Okay, great.
But it's not the US state.
And it's not. Or you condemn Donald Trump pardoning all the January 6th.
That is not the issue at stake. The debate is about the Democrats
So
taking
you
the
condemn
Senate.
Donald Trump pardoning those people.
Just the people that beat cops should stay in jail.
And you say Donald Trump is wrong to do that.
The people that
That's what J6 claimed was so unhinged. Well, yeah.
But just to go back, so Joe Biden won the 2020 election.
what you're trying to do is broad stroke.
How many
I'm
times
asking,
have you asked that
I'm asking you a question. He won't answer it. Did Joe Biden win the
He
2020
already
election?
did.
Fair and square? Yes, he said yes. Okay, great. But you have Republican senators who voted in favor of overturning the election.
As I think they should. I stand by that. I think you have the
So you said that Joe Biden won fair and square. Now you're saying they're going to overturn the voting.
They won't let Daniel Martino bring him back, okay? This is the TikTok debate rhetoric coming out. But I think it is, like, fair. I think it's, like, totally fair to say, maybe there's a better way for them to do it. To be like, okay, you say Democrats are, like, crazy on this margin. They say that you should mourn the Ayatollah or whatever. But, like, your side won't, acknowledge who won the 2020 election. And they tried to stop the count. They tried to overturn it. Usually you shouldn't put people who cooed your government back in. Didn't work too good in Venezuela with Chavez. American exceptionalism. Do you know that? Do you know the lore? I say lore. Daniel Martino was Venezuelan. I think he was born here. I'm not certain, but he's the children of Venezuelan immigrants, or he might be an immigrant himself. If he's an immigrant himself, he came over as a child. But he's from Venezuela. He talks a lot about Venezuela.
That's totally out of the
But
You're normalizing the debate right now.
I say that he won after the process. There's people that to this day will tell you, process or not, we still think that Trump was the president the whole time. I stand against that.
And Trump says that. And Republican senators say that.
Here's the question.
Yes, I think, let's zoom out for 1 second. Hold on, let's zoom out for 1 second. I think the better question, if Republicans hold the House and the Senate, what are they going to do that is going to better the lives of the American people?
Continuation of what we're doing right now.
Hold on. Because part of the reason, even if I say that I've interviewed Abdul al-Sayed, I endorsed Abdul al-Sayed, I like Abdul al-Sayed. Even if you say, well, Chris, I strongly disagree with that, you would obviously understand part of the reason we are seeing this momentum with Democrats is, again, because Donald Trump has not delivered on his promises and he's more unpopular than he's ever been. So my question is, what are Republicans going to do differently than they have in the next 2 years? What are Republicans going to do differently than they have done over the last 2 years if they keep control?
You look at
if I may, the main advantage of Republicans keeping the Senate is a confirmation for judges who are original interpreters of the precedent and of the Constitution. And so it is actually...
You guys don't have enough already? I'm sorry, but y'all don't have enough original judges. You don't. We overturned Roe v. Wade. We overturned Chevron. We had the immunity decision. We had the 14th Amendment Colorado decision. We had the 14th Amendment Voting Rights Act decision. Like, isn't this? I don't know. I'm sorry, y'all. Isn't this like enough? Isn't that like? You're chilling? I don't know, folks.
Really important to maintain the Senate majority so that Republicans, that President Trump can keep confirming originalist judges. That is the main advantage of the Senate.
Do you understand how like most Americans would kind of roll their eyes at that and say,
I can tell you, I understand why you asked the question.
Little pro-crime
I understand
reporting.
why
We're
you asked.
anti-crime.
You're guys a felon, so
I'll be a felon.
I think the question on most Americans' mind is what are Republicans going to provide? Because through 2 years, we see less legislation passed from the Trump administration compared to any president in modern American history. We see inflation higher than it was when he took office, and we see a war in Iran. So the question is, can you name actual substantive things that Republicans could do for the American people?
We've seen it. We don't have to guess. We do a contrast of what the Dems did, which is a 40-year high of 9% inflation. Hold on, let me finish. I'll let you finish. And then you have what the Republicans did. We came in.
What the Dems did, they turned the inflation dial up, and Republicans turned the inflation dial down.
And deregulated. We came in and brought down inflation, but gave them the opportunity to actually have no new taxes and have the opportunity to bring down taxes on tips and overtime. Then we did more.
Wow, no new taxes. Ignore the like 1 to 2% of GDP tax hike. You might know them as tariffs.
Opportunities for incentives for small businesses to increase. You can put a parallel vote together and see all y'all did was the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a nice title on a cute piece of paper, and I get it did well on TikTok, but it didn't actually help voters because the actual Congressional Budget Office said, who at the time was controlled by Democrats, that it was $0 and 0 cents to bring down inflation. So if you're saying that you're going to bring down inflation, which is hopefully
That also does $0, 0 cents. I don't know exactly. Does he mean percent?
what you're saying Democrats do if you get the majority, how can we trust you? Because when you had the majority, you passed something that brought it down $0 and 0 cents. We don't trust you, as the Gen Z showed at the 24 election.
But you would agree that inflation has risen under Donald Trump.
As we
Hey, what is Trump passed that lowered inflation? I think that, like, you can argue that Big Beautiful Bill is not good. Probably it had a mildly, like, positive impact on inflation, though. Like, probably it's increasing deficit spending, all else equal, probably going to increase inflation.
been in a war. You were
How the countries pay those, obviously.
It was 9% in peacetime. That's crazy.
There's not a single shred of economic data that supports the idea that the government at that time was the main cause of inflation.
I disagree. I can tell you.
There definitely is. Well, hold on. A shred of data that says what exactly?
Percent in peacetime. That's
But
crazy.
there's not a single shred of economic data that supports the idea that the government at that time was the main cause of inflation.
I disagree.
The main cause, I think you can haggle about but certainly there is economic data to suggest that it was a meaningful portion of it. Like a paper that I don't think Daniel DiMartino is going to bring up, but that I like, that I think it's cool just because it has a cool methodology. Is one that just looks at like inflation expectations from like high frequency data in banks, looking at the Senate runoff election, because when Ossoff won the runoff election, it greatly increased the chance of the American Rescue Plan passing. So you could interpret the inflation expectations from certain high frequency data they had. And that suggests that probably the American Rescue Plan was responsible for like about a third of the inflation that we saw at like peak inflation. And they claim that that might be a lower bound because historically the type of things that they were looking at tended to underestimate actual inflation. So it could be, you know, they were looking at expected inflation post the runoff elections, or it could be the case that that's actually a lower bound. But, you know, Fred prints dollars, lends it to Mexico, then Mexico pay the tariff with interest. Checkmate live. True. you know, there's a, I don't want to say a hint of truth is the wrong word, but it is true that, you know, that the Fed prints dollars and or the Treasury gives out bonds, and Mexicans save in a low interest rate, a low yielding asset, but then we buy, you know, high yielding foreign assets, and there's just a return differential there, and like we just like collect a lot more money because a lot of people want safe assets from America, which are bonds, but we get all the risky assets from the rest of the world, and we collect higher returns on it.
I can tell you really, well, first, I'm an economist in the table, I'll say that. And what happened in the world, not just in the United States, it's true that inflation went up after COVID, but it was not mainly because of COVID. It was because governments all over the world, not just the US government, by the way, it wasn't just Biden who made a mistake. Increased spending by giving people cash in excessive amounts, unemployment benefits, basic income that they just give out in cash to everybody.
Daniel DiMartino endorsing the fiscal theory of the price level. I actually don't know where he stands on fiscal theory of the price level versus quantity theory of money.
Paycheck protection program. By the way, it was a bipartisan mistake at the beginning and then continued just by Democrats under Biden that led to so much new money into the economy, chasing fewer goods that prices went up. This is basic. We literally threw helicopter money after 2021 into the economy. We had inflation. This is basic economics.
Helicopter money. That's the Fed, bro. What are we doing?
I don't see any, again, evidence to support the idea that
The Federal Reserve itself has published papers that it was government spending driving it.
Two things. Number one, I would love to see that. And number two,
Yes.
your first comment.
I mean, the Federal Reserve, I think, has also published stuff that says it wasn't the main cause.
You claim
At least the fiscal stimulus. You could argue the monetary stimulus too. So
it's risen because governments around the world are printing money. Obviously, if
J.D. Vance says being the reserve currency is bad. Yeah, I know. Kill me. Yeah, J.D. Vance has been on a, well, I say been on a streak recently, but more just resurfaced clips of him have been on a streak because he's been anti-reserve currency for a while.
in Europe is printing a bunch of cash. I'm not sure the correlation to
their own inflation. The EU also suffered it. Yeah.
Of course, their own inflation, but that doesn't.
And actually, if you adjust for the outstanding debt, if you just look at like the increasing government spending versus inflation, there's like not that much of a correlation there. But if you look at the increased spending plus the outstanding debt that countries had in inflation, there is actually a fairly strong correlation there. I wonder if I can find that real quick.
No, of course not. I'm saying that other countries made the same mistake.
Okay, and so I'm going to go back to my original point because, again, I would argue that we have direct evidence to show that Donald Trump's tariffs have caused inflation, the war in Iran has caused inflation, and that evidence doesn't exist from Biden's.
Well, it does.
Okay, well, I would say it doesn't. But regardless, again, the question remains is, what are Republicans going to do differently to solve the problems over the last few years?
Several things.
You both agree that inflation has risen, and that there's
Well,
more.
it is a fact that the CPI index is higher, and it's because oil prices are higher because
also
of the situation in the Middle East. That's a fact.
Okay.
Still not 9%.
That yes, exactly. It's not what
He said it was going to lower, and it's only.
Thank you, Daniel DiMartino. Give me the regression. Give me the graph. I crave the graph. There we go. It's one of these. Well. Hold on. All right, it's fantasy book time for me. Have fun, guys. Good luck. Well, I appreciate you stopping by, Original Heirloom. Thank you.
So it's a broken promise.
Now, the question is about Congress, right? I think that if Democrats take the Senate, we're going to have more government spending. They're going to try to reverse some of the spending cuts of the one big beautiful bill. While
see if we can
Republicans
do
are going to try to keep those cuts permanent, which is actually disinflationary.
But wait, how is that just? But obviously, you would agree that that's his big beautiful.
Oh, it's equal, but it's probably disinflationary.
Bill, explodes objectively. The 10-year evidence that we have would say that it's going to increase the deficit over the next 10 years. And also, I don't think this is a good way to look at government spending, but Donald Trump has spent more money than Joe Biden over 2 years than Joe Biden did in his first 2 years, and will continue to do so by all metrics. So by exploding our deficit, by cutting taxes and increasing government revenue,
look, you don't have to ask me. I think we should cut spending. Democrats are going to increase spending, and Republicans are much less likely to do that.
But Republicans,
you do agree that Democrats want to increase spending?
Okay, but no, because Republicans literally got in office and increased spending.
But I'm asking, do you think we should?
You can quibble about the deficit a bit. Probably when he says increased spending, he could either be referring to just like net spending relative to baseline, which I think is true that Democrats want to do that, or just like spending kind of period, not taking into account the tax revenue that Democrats also want to increase, which is probably not enough to offset much of the spending they want to do. But in which case, it's kind of just like trivially true that Democrats do want to do that.
Increase government spending?
I mean, that's just like a very broad question. It depends.
You think Democrats would?
I think Republicans would. Yeah.
Asking Democrats.
I'm just saying that I think Republicans have already increased the spending. Rylan, Harry.
What you left out as a big beautiful bill that was so scary when you painted the picture of it was that it didn't just do the horrible things that you're terrified about. It actually cut taxes for working people, which is our voting base. It's been scared away from the Democrats. It also deregulated the government, which allowed room for small businesses to come in post-COVID, which is amazing.
I think you can argue some of these things were good, to be clear, but probably the change in after-tax income for the bottom, I think 20% of people is what the CBO projected is going to be negative, because it also got rid of some of like their Medicaid benefits and some of like the ACA subsidies. And now I think that I don't think the work requirements for Medicaid are good. I think there are ways to do Medicaid cuts which could be good, but it's not work requirements. And I think the ACA subsidies, letting the COVID ones expire, was probably not good, but that does reduce people's after-tax income, right? So if you give them a tax cut, but also reduce the amount of money the government is giving them, probably that's net bad for them. Their after-tax income goes down.
We can all agree on that. The biggest thing that I'm proud of, and I think our generation's noticed, especially because it went viral on social media, is taking away fraud. There was $50 billion in Medicaid fraud that you can't sit here and ignore. $50 billion in Medicaid fraud. So do you agree that that's...
Whoa, which has Trump made any meaningful impact on that? Like most of the fraud is coming from, most of the Medicaid fraud is just like from providers. And like that's bad. There are ways to address that. I'm sure Daniel Martino knows some of the wonky ways to address some of those issues. Okay. But like, I think Doge didn't make any meaningful progress there, much less on any other thing they talked about. And I don't know what the big beautiful bill did to address fraud. I know it had some changes to, which I think these were not good. It had I forget the specifics, but had some changes to how it's like financing the SNAP and Medicaid are split up between states and the federal government, which like incentivizes states to be more proactive with like monitoring their stuff or whatever. Fuck. I never trust the first Google result, but I think I could probably find
Republicans got rid of the Democrats.
The specifics about it.
Beforehand, they could have gotten rid of. And other than that, what plan do you have? Are you going to keep cutting fraud?
I laughed at your fraud comment, given the fact that Donald Trump was found liable with over $300 million worth of business fraud. Are you against that?
I think 7 swing states voted for the guy after
Oh,
they did
okay, exactly.
Didn't win the election.
Wait, yeah, but are you...
7 swing states do that and voted for it.
But if you're as a matter of principle against fraud, and you're like, we should get rid of fraud, you'd also say, yeah, I'm against Donald Trump committing fraud, yes?
And 7 swing states...
Okay, so you're not going to condemn Donald Trump.
Do you condemn $50 billion in Medicaid fraud?
We have 1 more minute, so we're trying to get it. Well, you wouldn't condemn Donald...
Just take $1 billion to $50 billion in fraud and buy a pardon, you're good, problem solved. It's true. It's true. Yeah, where's... One Big Beautiful Bill Act shifts significant financing administrative burdens to states. For SNAP, administrative cost splits move to 75% state and 20% federal starting 2027, with states absorbing a share of benefit costs by 2028.
Remember, we're trying not to interrupt. Hold on. But also in the big beautiful bill that you're bragging about, there was cuts to Medicaid, Medicare over $1 trillion over 10 years. And by the way, just said he's proud of it. No, just said he's proud of it on record. And also now we have 400 different hospitals around the United States, many in rural areas, who are now at risk at closing because of Donald Trump's cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. Wait, it's not funny though, because people need these hospitals to be able to get fraud. Wait, excuse me, I'm not done yet. They're in rural areas. They don't have access to the hospitals that you have in Washington D.C. or wherever you live or wherever in Manhattan, right? So they need these hospitals.
Just make them move to cities, bro. I'm done with rural people, guys. Even though I live in a rural area, okay. relatively liberal.
At risk of closing. I don't think that's funny. I don't think cutting them. It's not.
Yeah, this is Medicare and SNAP lost nearly $50 billion to improper payments. A new government accountability office report finds and Medicaid and SNAP made approximately $47.6 billion in improper payments. One reason improper payments remain so present is in these two programs is due to their financing structures. Federal taxpayers currently pay more than 95% of SNAP cost, leaving states with little incentive to invest in reducing payment errors, since they face almost no consequences for mismanagement. Federal taxpayers also cover more than 70% of Medicaid's costs. Where's the I remember this was funny. Some states are using the Alaska carve-out to dodge the One Big Beautiful Bill Act's SNAP integrity reforms. OBB, I'm just going to call it B3 or OB3, aim to hold states accountable for improper SNAP payments by requiring them to pay a portion of the food stamp benefits they issue when their payment error rates exceed 6% starting in fiscal year 2028. However, the Alaska carve-out undermines this by granting states with error rates above 13.34% a temporary exemption from matching fund penalties for 2 years. There was Alaska... what's her name? Lisa Murkowski, I think, needed this carve out in order to get her support in the bill. She didn't want her constituents to lose SNAP. Officials in at least 2 states, New Mexico and Maryland, have already been caught trying to keep payment error rates elevated to delay penalties. Representative Frost points out the Alaska carve-out penalizes states that make good faith efforts to improve integrity and reduce blah 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 blah. I finally got that the American Way a welfare book scanned, by the way. So now I can have it in Zotero and read it on my e-reader and stuff and not have to deal with a actual physical book. Oh my god, the horror. And this book talks a lot about similar such issues. I might have some issues with it, though. Regardless.
Sure, that's laughing. That's the Congressional Budget Office.
My great concern with Democrats taking the Senate is simply that we have the most radical Democrats running for office that we've ever had. Socialists, Islamists, people like Abdullah Sayed, people like Troy Jackson in Maine. And I am really worried about it because I don't want America to become a socialist country.
I think that reporting has to be at least accurate to an extent. Again, when somebody is given 97% of the stories are bad about a person, that's no longer free speech. That's no longer, that's just cheating. And they cheat. And they become really members of the Democrat National Committee. That's what they are, the networks, in my opinion. They're just offshoots of the Democrat National Committee.
Trump is the most pro-free speech president in American history. And I'll agree.
Wow, incredible.
So I took the prompt literally when it said most free speech president. And I don't think anybody can get more free speech than James Madison, who literally wrote the First Amendment. So he deserves the award for most free speech.
Oh my God.
But I do think that no president's been censored as much as Trump. And I also think that on day one of coming back in office, he fired the people from Biden's administration that was directing social media companies to censor conservatives like us on campuses and on social media. That's pretty pro-free speech definitionally. And he's coming in and firing the people that take away free speech.
So you would both say, I don't want to speak for you, that he's not the most pro-free speech ever, but he is very pro-free speech.
I would absolutely agree he's very pro-free speech. In the matter of the actual free speech meaning of the First Amendment, which is government censorship.
Okay, Donald Trump has said multiple times, and I'm going to let you go, that he would... And he's
I think arguably Trump is worse than government censorship and better on the sort of like cultural censorship. I mean, there's like a element to which he's kind of bad at like the cultural, cancel culture censorship stuff too, and that like you kind of got to be a Trump suck up to really be in the, you know, MAGA kind of coalition. Kind of got to get in front of Congress and say that you don't think Joe Biden won the 2020 election, right? But, you know, more broadly, like he appealed to the social media things. You know, probably Trump is like to some degree better on that, but worse on the actual government censorship of stuff, right? Worse on the actually using the FCC to threaten people and, you know, actually suing people for their, you know, use or for releasing polls that he didn't like. Although, you know, he only sued them in his personal capacity. Clearly, him being president of the United States granted him no influence there. God. But even if you don't think that like him being president had anything to do with like ABC, you know, paying him out like $16 million or whatever, that just ends up making it worse on the cultural stuff, basically.
Word for a second that he wants to make burning the American flag illegal. Do you feel like that's pro-free speech?
Well, I would say that it is totally fine to amend the Constitution to achieve that, but it is unconstitutional settled by the Supreme Court.
That's not what he said, though.
burning the American flag is allowed.
And you would agree that in modern American history, that's pretty unprecedented in terms of like a
It's
president.
actually not. It's very precedented to ban the burning of the flag for centuries.
Well, I mean, the Supreme Court has already ruled on a flag burning case. I meant more so that a president would make a comment like
no,
that.
it's actually been said by many presidents.
That
It was very much a consensus like centuries ago to ban the burning
Well,
of the
I'm
flag.
talking about modern American history. Let's say the last 75 years.
I mean, there was a Supreme Court case because it was banned by American
The Supreme Court case was only in 2010, right? So
authorities. You know that, right?
I'm just making clear.
It was bipartisan, by the way.
As a president saying that, I feel like that's pretty anti-free speech. You would
Well,
not support.
maybe you would think that. I'm just saying that it was a very bipartisan consensus. I think I would support an amendment to ban it, but I wouldn't support violating the Constitution, of course.
Okay.
I don't think Trump either.
Why would you support an amendment to?
Because I don't think we should burn the American flag.
Isn't that free speech? I mean, burning a flag.
I think it's a form of speech, but we could change it by changing.
I feel like that in itself is kind of infringement on free speech. Like, I think that I personally would not burn the American flag. That's not something that I would do. But if somebody wanted to, then I think that they should have a legal right to do so. People burn the LGBTQ plus flag. I think that's abhorrent, but I also don't think anybody should go to jail for it. Isn't that also just like a universal kind of free speech?
Well, that's different. But the point is,
I'm fine with that.
Democrats,
That's fine.
right?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Democrats also supported it in the past. I guess on the point of whether Trump is a very pro-free speech president, the reason I think that Trump has been extremely good for free speech in this country is because up until Trump's first term and then second especially, there was a cancel culture in this country. People getting fired from jobs because they believe men and women are different. Remember the engineering Google because he published an essay saying that. People getting expelled from college. People getting expelled from college campuses or being investigated for saying things about transgenderism. It happened to me at Columbia University. They opened an anti-discrimination investigation on me because I put out a tweet saying that
oh shit, what happened in America? I'm not familiar with this lore.
Trump's first term and then second especially, there was a cancel culture in this country. People getting fired from jobs because they believe men and women are different. Remember the engineering Google because he published an essay saying that. People getting expelled from college.
I don't remember. There were people. It's not my competitive advantage, and I don't remember every detail of all these things. Okay. If anything, I would expect Chris and Harry to do decent here, but I'm kind of doubting their abilities. Not gonna lie, guys. Kind of doubting.
They're people getting expelled from college campuses or being investigated for saying things about transgenderism. It happened to me at Columbia University. They opened an anti-discrimination investigation on me because I put out a tweet saying that God does not teach us that men can become women. That is outrageous, and it is.
Wait, sorry. Put out a tweet saying something. Teachers.
They opened an anti-discrimination investigation on me because I put out a tweet saying that God does not teach us that men can become women.
Oh, God does not teach us that men can become women. Okay.
That is outrageous, and it is thanks to Trump's administration that now conservatives have much more freedom of speech in this country.
I agree. You should not be investigated for that.
I remember a time after Charlie Kirk was killed, and people online were making jokes about it, which neither of us did. We didn't joke about it, but people were. And J.D. Vance sat at the White House doing Charlie Kirk's show and said, if you see people making jokes about Charlie Kirk's death, call their employer, call whoever they're associated with, and have them face some consequences. Is that not exactly what you're describing on the Republican side of getting people canceled because they made a joke?
It's actually very different because I will say why. The truth is, men and women are different, while mocking somebody's death is abhorrent. That's the difference.
Well, that could be a matter of your opinion.
No, it's fact.
No, that could be a matter of your, that could be a matter of your
Are men and women not
opinion.
different?
Wait, that could be a matter of your opinion, but don't you think the government advocating for people to be fired?
Okay. Now, I think that woke one was crazy. Okay. I think woke one is crazy and all. Okay, listen, I think that, like, there are many Democrats that are, to this day, kind of still policey around that issue and around other, like, cultural issues as well. And there are, like, some more general concerns with the Biden administration and during COVID did this info stuff or whatever. I don't think the rise almost anywhere close to the level of like the Trump stuff or whatever. And okay, and a lot of like the disinfo COVID stuff, the under Biden shit, like a lot of shit happened under Trump. Okay, but regardless. Anyways, okay. Like people don't think, I mean, maybe some people. Most even progressive Democrats don't think it's abhorrent to say, you know, man and woman are different. They think it's abhorrent to deny like what in their view is healthcare or what in their view is a right, or to like dehumanize trans people, right? Like that, like the abhorrent thing is not the mere statement that like you think men and women are different, or even that you disagree. I mean, depending on how progressive you get, they're not going to find it abhorrent to just say like you don't think like trans women are really women. They think the kind of broader policies there are abhorrent, and a broader like attitude you're promoting towards respecting people's rights are abhorrent.
Because they said speech they don't like is the definition of being anti-free
I certainly
speech.
don't think the government should do legal consequences on citizens for, you know, even those abhorrent things. But I think that J.D. Vance is a person saying that you can have private consequences is different.
And if J.D. Vance emailed some of those employers and said, fire this person, absolutely crazy. What did Joe Biden's DOJ do? Directly, the emails been redacted, I'll release the files, we release the files, specifically talking to Meta and Twitter saying, censor this account, make sure this doesn't get amplified. It directly came out for COVID. It had
That wasn't, fuck me. Is Randy a little awake?
redacted, I'll release the files, we release the files, specifically talking to Meta and Twitter saying, censor this account, make sure this doesn't get amplified. It directly came out for COVID. It had happened. By the way, fun fact.
I don't remember this stuff. I don't remember this stuff, bro. I remembered it for the election.
those documents also show that the Trump administration did the exact same thing. They were also in
You mean
contact.
Dr. Fauci?
Not Dr. Fauci, but senior members of the Trump administration, people who actually worked around the Oval Office. And you can fact check me after this. Well, one sec. You can fact check me after this. These are advisors, so you can fact check me after this and go look at the emails. It shows the Trump administration does the same thing. But broadly, you're talking about people getting canceled. I mean, you had an experience at Columbia, which I'm not familiar with, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, where you said something that people disagreed with, and you had something taken away from you. You were canceled. That's exactly what happened with people joking about Charlie Kirk. They made a joke that even if you find it abhorrent, they said something that J.D. Vance and Republicans agreed with, and they launched an entire campaign getting people fired and canceled. And now we're seeing a lot of these people winning huge settlements because they were fired for their speech. This is something that I feel like if you guys are saying, oh, people shouldn't be canceled for saying something about transgender people or gay people, they would also be like, yeah, I think people shouldn't be joking about Charlie Kirk, but I don't think that J.D. Vance or Republicans should be calling up people's employers. No.
I'm not sure if Chris wants to say something.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say that also during the Biden administration, and another great improvement of the Trump administration is they were persecuting parents for going to school board meetings to defend their children for being raped in their bathroom, and there were dads that were arrested for that. There were parents that were classified as terrorists, domestic terrorists, for expressing their view in school board meetings, and the FBI and the DOJ.
I could be wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering things, guy. Okay, I think the other stuff has some real stuff to it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to being wrong. Okay. Daniel Martino hit me. We've spoken before in Twitter DMs. But aren't most of those stories basically bullshit? Like, it's all... I could be thinking of, like, the one in Canada or whatever. I think the one in Canada that people bring up a lot is, like, they say, like, some dad, like, lost custody of his child because he didn't respect their trans identity and said some shit at a school board meeting or whatever. And he, like, look into it, and it's, like, this dad, like, that... like, violated, like, multiple court orders. I'm pretty sure school board meeting trans parents labeled domestic terrorist.
Was going after them, and that was shut down by the Trump
But
administration.
you're saying that's not true. That's not true. They didn't. Yeah. No.
House Judiciary Republicans. And I can send a letter to Merrick Garland. Blah, blah, blah. And leaks and emails and coverage when the NSBA has advanced knowledge of the release of Garland's memo. 30 states have distanced themselves from the NSBA, including North Carolina, dropping their membership entirely. Okay, where is...
It's true, you're shaking your head. It did factually happen. There were school board moms who were put on a domestic terrorist watch list by Biden's dad as well, who went proudly to the meeting.
Like, this is, Washington Post, mainstream media, woke bullshit or whatever, but Biden used the FBI to target parents of domestic terrorists. Can you imagine that? Usually when politicians start dropping into talking point into interviews, there's private polling indicating that it resonates with voters, and McCarthy language fits a recent pattern in which Republicans have said they want to champion parents' rights to protest critical race theory or transgender accommodations. It turns out McCarthy first used this line in his 8-hour speech last fall to protest Biden's Build Back Better legislation. It was a significant escalation of a Republican claim that we had previously fact-checked as false, that Garland directed the FBI to spy on parents. All started from a September 29th letter from the NSBA that asked Biden for federal resources to help monitor threats of violence and acts of intimidation against public school members and other school officials. As these acts of malice, violence, and threats against public school officials have increased, the classification of these heinous actions could be the equivalent to a form of domestic terrorism and hate crimes, the 6-page letter asserted. The association's letter asked for a joint expedited review by various agencies, including involving technical assistance from the FBI's National Security Branch and Counterterrorism Division. The letter also requested examination of appropriate actions that could be taken under federal laws, including the Patriot Act, in regards to domestic terrorism. Usually, a source of letters take weeks to get a response, but within 5 days, Garland issued a memo addressed to the FBI director and federal prosecutors. He called for action within 30 days. Do you want localism to call in for questions? Not really. Questions about what? Recent months has been a disturbance, making harassment, intimidation, threats of violence. Oh, I read that right. The letter, for instance, mentioned an incident in Virginia in which a person was arrested during a school board meeting discussing distinguishing current curriculums from critical race theory and regarding equality issues. The arrest was a father whose daughter had been sexually assaulted in a girl's bathroom. I was talking about this, of her Loudoun County School by a male student. Prosecutor said that during the teen's trial that he was wearing a skirt at the time of the assault, but they have not commented on the gender identity. As the Washington Post report recounted in January, the blowback from the letter was so intense that it nearly led to the collapse of the organization. They apologized for the letter. Was deleted from their website. Announced that it launched an independent review. There's no reference to terrorism in the memo. What about the specific guy they talked about? I don't remember the details of it. Your questions. If you can't come up with them, you aren't smart enough. Guess I'm not smart enough.
Who use their First Amendment right, and they're treated like terrorists in their own nation for speaking out. It did happen.
What were the charges that were filed? Because they weren't, arrested for saying something that they didn't like. What were they doing at these meetings?
You mean saying that men shouldn't go on
No, it's not.
bathrooms?
Come on.
Why don't you tell me?
No, come on. They were arrested. I mean, there's a variety of charges that were brought, but they were arrested on different charges like assault or battery or disorderly
Did you see the
conduct
video
at
of
these
the dad? Did you see the
meetings.
video of who was arrested for assault?
You can pick up a random video and say, did you see this video?
Famous.
Well, I don't know what video you're talking about. You can say, did you see this video? I didn't see that video. I don't know what you're talking about. But when you look at these charges, like the DOJ isn't securing convictions in courts in these Republican states as well. Well, or bringing charges. You still have to get a grand jury together and a jury together to bring a charge if you want and have prosecutorial discretion. They're not bringing charges or successfully getting cases because somebody said something they didn't like. So yeah, people went to school boards and they were assaulting people, they were hitting people, and to be clear, I think I speak for both of us. If they were just saying something in these school board meetings and they were acting legally, nothing like that, they didn't break the law, and they were saying something that we disagree with that they liked, they should not be arrested for doing that. And that's not what happened. That's not what happened.
There was a dad whose entire crime was yelling at the school board meeting
And what was
because
he
his
charged
daughter was raped.
And what was he charged
With disorderly conduct.
With disorderly conduct.
Do you think
Okay.
it's disorderly when your daughter is to yell at the school board that allowed it?
I think that if you're causing a ruckus at a meeting and you're acting improperly,
I think he must
Kill me. I don't think they talk about this guy in particular.
justified.
Well, I mean, I agree that he should be outraged, but that doesn't mean you get to break the law. Like, I think
that's still different. Like we would argue, there are certain crimes that are justified. So if like you were out at a bar and some guy was acting a fool, harassing a girl, you're still going to be charged if you hit the guy. But I think a lot of people might look at that differently as opposed to you just randomly hitting a guy. So whether they were, if he was being disorderly, whether we feel like he should have been or not, it doesn't matter. But I think that one of the points I'd make here, I'm going to strongly disagree with the concept around meta and the DOJ, and I'm getting that in a second. But I think more importantly, when we talk about actually coming after individuals, like Donald Trump has signed executive orders against a multitude of law firms and individuals at those law firms.
True.
And their justification for it is specifically who those law firms represent. One of those law firms, for example, formerly representing the DNC and the Harris campaign, one of the individuals at this law firm formerly representing Hillary Clinton, and essentially stripping the ability for those lawyers to go in government buildings, stripping security clearances, etc. You then had a host of law firms to avoid these executive orders give pro bono work to Donald Trump that's totaling near $1 billion, saying we will offer you, one law firm for example, $100 million in pro bono work for conservative causes the president cares about that you can use now and after your presidency. Like we're actively seeing Donald Trump target people based on who they represent. If they represent Democrats, some of these law firms also formerly were one of the law firms, for example, represented Jack Smith, who investigated Donald Trump, and the administration directly said we signed executive order because we feel like they shouldn't have security clearances because Jack Smith went after the president. That's textbook definition against the First Amendment.
I think it's common sense.
Wait, going after a private business?
No, removing
Common sense.
political enemy that is sabotaging the administration.
Wait, hold on a second. You're saying it's common?
What? Okay. Mr. Daniel D. Martino. Okay. Just to be clear, this is referring to Jack Smith?
Wait, going after a private business?
No, removing the security clearance of a political enemy that is sabotaging the administration.
Wait, hold on a second.
Political enemy. I guess maybe he's just using political enemy to mean someone who just like by definition is a political enemy in that he was prosecuting Trump, but probably was like a fair prosecution, right? Like come on.
You're saying it's common sense to go, again, a law firm that is a private business that's making a bunch of money.
But they don't need a security clearance.
Okay, but so much of the work they do is with government entities. So banning their lawyers from being able to go into government buildings.
But if they're sabotaging your administration, how are you going to give them privileged access?
That's you're actively arguing for going against the First Amendment.
Okay, I think he's talking about the law firms, which is not as bad to say that. Okay.
Right now.
No, I'm saying that the government picks its contractors.
Yeah, if the government has a law firm, and I don't know, like Perkins Coie, I know is one of the law firms. I don't know how many people work there, but it's a huge law firm, 1,000 people, and they work with a host of government agencies.
Like, why should a Democrat administration give a security clearance and access to a Republican law firm?
No, the issue is that
make no sense, right?
But the issue is that you're not giving security clearances because of who they represent. Because, for example,
of course.
So if they
because there's a conflict of interest.
Oh my goodness. I've got a question. It's very.
There were like,
Let's look into it. It's very.
I don't know specifically the law firms how much of the. I mean, I think the like lawsuits against them and such matter more than the security clearances, but like. It has been a norm, for instance, that like the people with like the press with security clearance in the Pentagon were like reasonable news outlets and not OAN, right? Like Trump got rid of most of them and replaced them with OAN and fucking Cam Higbee, right? Like that was clearly not a normal thing to do, and that it was a bipartisan respected thing that presidents were supposed to do that. I think it's also the case with there was some norm that you wouldn't do things like get rid of the Associated Press just for not calling it the Gulf of America. Probably we understand these things to have been protected by bipartisan norms that Trump does not seem to care about at all.
Didn't talk about business deals of this administration after the entire public is fully aware of the business deals that Hunter Biden probably did, that he had to get a blanket pardon from his daddy for. Why else would he get a pardon? I don't get pardons for people because I don't do crimes. He clearly did something that was criminal in the business deals. But let's leave business deals aside. I have just a question for you. Just a question. Would you say that Donald Trump is a dictator?
I'm not going to. I think he's a wannabe dictator. Yes.
Okay. Do you think he's a dictator by letting us sit here in his own capital and talk bad about him? Is that the worst dictator ever? Find a single country that he would be limiting free speech. We couldn't do this. I'd never see you two again. He'd take you away. We're going to debate again. Hopefully soon.
That's why the word is wannabe. I'll get wannabe.
He's doing pretty bad at it if you think about it.
I don't know. I mean, arresting people for touching water at the reflecting pool.
For vandalizing government property.
Well, the DOJ said there was no vandalism.
But you just said this earlier.
Wait,
But
sure
not when that started.
They ended up being, I could be wrong, they ended up being released because of the fact that it doesn't seem like he was actually vandalizing it, right? That athlete.
Wait, touching water is not disorderly conduct.
But wait a minute.
The allegation wasn't.
Let me say something.
Can I actually respond to that? The allegation against them was not disorderly conduct. The allegation against them. I don't want to talk about reflecting pools. It's like a stupid topic. We should really move away from it. But the DOJ, I know, but it was just a point of response to him. But the actual allegation in the filing was vandalism.
I mean, I do want to point out to his point. That was one of those people charged was an Olympian who had his life ruined, and then the DOJ proceeded to drop the charges when they said
That guy. Yeah, they dropped charges. Yeah, that's what I remember.
Donald Trump. It looks like he's going to fire Jeanine Pirro because he said, "quote She failed at what she did." That's Donald Trump actively using his DOJ to go after these people. I think the comment of, "Oh, if he's actually a wannabe dictator, how are we sitting here having this conversation?" Again, obviously, it would not. It happens slowly and then it happens quickly. I think one of the most powerful things I've seen in a while is a New York Times piece where 5 or 6 college professors actually who had spent all of them spent 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades teaching about the rise of authoritarianism and the rise of different these things around the world. And a multitude of them have left. And one of them who was asked, "Why did you leave? Why did you go to Canada?" He said, "Well, number one, because I'm scared I'm not going to be able to continue my work on college campuses because Donald Trump is signing executive orders against college campuses. So I want to be able to continue my work. But the other thing is that my grandparents fled from Nazi Germany right before things got bad, and the lesson there was to leave. And obviously, we've seen Donald Trump at a point ban there was a media company that was banned from not the
the Associated Press.
Yeah,
That was going to focus on the Hitler comparison.
America, the Gulf of Mexico, or whatever.
I don't know.
Official terms, they were doing something against journalistic standards.
I just think in terms of some of these things, signing executive orders, banning people in press rooms, saying you want to make burning of the flag illegal, that's one of the most anti-free speech presidents ever.
We do start with breaking news. The state suing the U.S. Department of Justice, accusing the feds of blocking access to unredacted Epstein files in the state's Zorro Ranch criminal probe.
Oh no. Oh God, kill me. God, kill me. I can't deal with it.
Mexico Department of Justice filed that suit today, asking acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and the U.S. DOJ to produce the files, asking the court as well for access to those unredacted files. New Mexico DOJ says these files and documents are critical to New Mexico's ongoing criminal investigation into alleged crimes at Zorro Ranch. The suit wants the court to declare the withholding of these files unlawful and order the U.S. Department of Justice to release them. We have reached out to the U.S. Department of Justice for comment. We will let you know if and when we hear back.
Trump's DOJ is protecting Epstein's powerful friends, and New Mexico is right to sue them for it.
What a surprise.
What a surprise. So, I guess I would love to hear the negative first. Like, how is Donald Trump not protecting the people associated with the Epstein files? How is he not protecting Epstein himself? I mean, there are still millions more documents out there. They're speaking about rule of law. There's still an active violation of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, so much so that Republicans and Democrats are working on Part 2 of that law. And Katie Fang is actually suing the Department of Justice to get more files out. But how is blocking these files, not working with New Mexico, which is the only active criminal investigation into Epstein, not somehow protecting him and his friends?
So the law you referred to specifically says that House Republicans passed and the President signed that we should make sure that the victims' names and some of the active investigations still covered up. So thankfully, there's still active investigation because we want these people to be arrested and we want more files to be released. My question to you is simple though. How many files did Trump release?
I think there's 1.5 million outstanding.
3 million have been released. That's the question you dodged.
Yes.
How many did Biden release?
Oh, I can release 0 and I can talk about that.
And hold on, we're getting there, I promise. How many did Obama release?
0, I guess.
Okay, how many did Trump prosecute?
They weren't legally mandated to do so. I think the whole FC. I can't do it. I can't do it, guys. I can't do it. I think the Epstein stuff is all just a nothing burger, bro. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Well, Joe Biden prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell.
And how many did Trump prosecute? Jeffrey Epstein himself.
Oh, I mean, he didn't get there because he was dead. I think you can absolutely take the position that other presidents should have done more on that. That's perfectly fine. You can say that Obama maybe should have had some documents out there, or Joe Biden maybe should have had documents out there, but it's a little bit more nuanced than like, did Joe Biden do it or did he not? The reason why is because Ghislaine Maxwell was actively being prosecuted by the Biden administration, and there's DOJ policy. I presume everybody knows that when there's an active criminal case against somebody.
Donald Trump kicked Epstein out of his fucking.
I mean, the feds are not investigating.
You don't know that. Are you working?
Well,
DOJ?
they're investigating other people. That's the question, right? Because this is why they need to. In fact, the law. It's not that the law requires the release of all the files. That the law actually prohibits the release of files also related to active investigations. And remember, it's not just Epstein who committed crimes here or his wife. It's a host of sexual abusers. And all those people need to be prosecuted. I think that we can all agree on that. And the resolution.
Okay, genuinely, I don't give a fuck about Epstein. Okay, I can't do it, guys. I can't do it.
Dr. Anthony Fauci sat before this committee in the witness chair under subpoena for conduct covered by the President Biden's full and unconditional pardon, reaching back to 2014. Dr. Fauci faced no risk of federal prosecution. All he had to do was tell the truth. More than 100 times, though, he refused. That is what we were voting on today. Not his opinions, not his policies, not anything he said from a podium 6 years ago. We are voting on whether a witness who has received the benefit of a sweeping federal pardon can be ordered by this committee to answer questions and then defy that order without consequence. The question is on reporting of an original resolution regarding contempt of Congress. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Johnson.
Yes.
Senator Langford.
Aye.
Senator Scott.
Yes.
Senator Hawley.
Aye.
Senator Marino.
On behalf of the millions of people harmed by Anthony Fauci, resoundingly yes.
Senator Ernst. Aye. Senator Moody. Senator Peters.
No.
Senator Hassan. No. Senator Blumenthal.
No.
Senator Fetterman. No. Senator Kim. No. Senator Gallego.
No by proxy.
Senator Slotkin.
No by proxy.
Senator Paul.
Yes.
On this vote, the yeas are 8, the nays are 5, and the motion is agreed to.
Dr. Fauci belongs in prison for lying to Americans about COVID origins, masks, and vaccine efficacy.
Guys,
So specifically what happened in that clip was from the
Fucking kill me.
committee hearing. Everybody came together, both sides had the opportunity to ask him questions. Both sides did ask him questions, and he pleaded the fifth over 100 times. It's a crime to plead the fifth under blanket pardon that you know very well your buddy Biden gave him. So that's a crime that he's been put in prison for. But I want to give you all a chance to respond to something before we go.
Wait, sorry, that wasn't what the prompt. The prompt is for lying to the American people about COVID origins, mask, and vaccine efficiency. If you want to make the argument about the pardon stuff, you can do that. But why? That's not what the prompt says.
Where they're screaming for anything. I want to give you all the chance, out of bipartisanship, just to clear the air a little bit. Fauci's diary has since come out, since we've seen everything. Now, we all were in school when all this happens. We all got shut out of school because Fauci specifically instructed governors, as he's now admitted to shut down the schools. Now, he later admitted a few lines down in his own handwriting that was not going to help, that it wasn't true. Now we know after the fact that science proved that didn't help anything. If only it hurted our learning, it hurted our generation test scores. It's also a fact that he said in his own handwriting that he went on TV, he admitted that, COVID is 10 times the seasonal flu, and a few lines down in his own diary is laughing about the fact that that's not even true, but it worked to get Americans to put the mask on, to do the social distancing. Now, you both tweeted that, you both tweeted that Dr. Fauci was a national hero and a patriot. Do you still stand by those claims after he committed this problem here that he's going to be holding contempt for? He also lied in his own diary. Because you didn't know that he lied when you said that.
Yes, he is a national hero.
Yes, he's a national hero. Also, con law settling. It is not against the law to do what Dr. Fauci did. So the Supreme Court has ruled that when you're given a blanket pardon for specific conduct, if you're asked to testify in front of the Senate or the House about that conduct in particular of which you were pardoned for, then you must be answering questions. However, Rand Paul and a bunch of Republican senators have explicitly said for years that they want to throw Dr. Fauci in prison, and he had the right
because James said about Trump.
Okay,
It's not
but
one-sided
that's
thing.
completely irrelevant.
It's
Sure,
true, though.
that's great. Because they've said we.
Wait, and if Trump had a blanket pardon, he probably wouldn't have to. He'd probably be entitled to plead the fifth still, right? Like what?
To testify in front of the Senate or the House about that conduct in particular of which you were pardoned for, then you must be answering questions. However, Rand Paul and a bunch of Republican senators have explicitly said for years that they want to throw Dr. Fauci in prison, and he had the right
because James said about Trump.
Okay,
It's not
that's
one-sided thing.
completely irrelevant.
It's
Sure,
true, though.
that's great. Because they've said we want to throw him in prison, he had the absolute right to declare the Fifth Amendment. That is protected by the Constitution. There won't be any criminal charges from this because this is new conduct, right? This is a new testimony. It's not about did Dr. Fauci steal a candy bar in 2019. It's new conduct. No, it is absolutely
all the
not.
questions were about the past during the pandemic, though.
It doesn't matter because, for example, if Dr. Fauci said the sky was cloudy on a day that it was sunny, and the Republicans went after him, that's a new crime that he would be alleged for. That is not a testimony about past conduct. So let me rephrase. Let's just say Dr. Fauci said something that was actually a false under the law, right? He lied to Congress. He could now be prosecuted for that in particular. He wanted to avoid something like that or having his statement took out of
He has
context
to
and
tell
then
the truth in
prosecuted.
Congress. He can't avoid telling the truth by pleading the fifth when he's being pardoned.
If the testimony was specifically only around conduct that he was pardoned
But that's
for,
what most questions were about.
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It is about that conduct.
Why did he have a pardon in the first place? Because him and Joe loved each other so much?
Well, I'm happy to talk about it as well.
No, but he was pardoned. So, and he's being asked questions about what he did.
Why says that? Why did?
2021 conduct.
That's not even the prompt though. Why didn't you make the prompt he should be in prison for the actions that for pleading the fifth when he was pardoned and doesn't have a legal right to do that? That's not what the prompt is.
By his pardon.
No, but you have to understand that this is a new activity. So this is one activity.
Why is the new activity?
So let me just finish. So this is an old activity. Let's say just anything from 2014 to when he was pardoned. That's an old activity. Testifying before the Senate or the House is a new activity of which he could face new charges for. And if you could face new charges, then you absolutely have a right to plead the fifth.
Okay, are you saying that if we are called to testify in front of Congress and then we just refuse to answer questions and plead the fifth because we don't want to be persecuted, that's constitutional? It is not.
Well, I'll answer violence.
How do you? I mean, there are cases where you wouldn't have the right, but hey, you especially probably would have the right to plead the fifth almost anything. Given that you don't have a blanket pardon, presumably.
Yes,
of course it is. No, we must tell the truth.
Wait, you think that
if we were pardoned, yes.
Wait, okay, now you're adding something in.
But that's what Fauci is.
No, but again, this is what he was pardoned for. This is a new thing.
He was pardoned for lying to the American people. And he admitted he lied.
I'm going to answer Ryland's question that I know he's about to ask, which is then what was the point of the pardon and all these things.
Actually,
okay, because I think here's the thing. To your point, you have Republicans like Rand Paul who've said over and over and over again they want to see Fauci in a jail cell. I don't think there's any benefit to, even if he answered all those questions perfectly, Republicans would try desperately to find some way to indict him. And we have evidence of this under the Trump administration, right? It's why you have Donald Trump's DOJ currently going after his political opponents. And I want to point out, doing so with massive failure rates. Donald Trump's DOJ has been filled with loyalists. You have people like, for example, when Tish James was indicted, she was indicted by a woman who had never.
How many prosecutors has he fired now, by the way? Or how many? Not all of them have fired. Some of them resigned. Like a lot of them resigned over like the Eric Adams thing. Like
tried a criminal case before. This is arguably one of the biggest criminal cases in American history. And you have a woman who has never tried a criminal case, which is part of the reason it was dropped. The reason she never tried a criminal case is because the last guy got pushed out when he said there wasn't enough evidence. So they brought in this random nut job who practiced insurance law. The point I'm making is that Donald Trump is directing his DOJ to go after his political opponents. If they don't do a good job or they don't do it, they get pushed out. We have many examples. And so Dr. Fauci, working with this intent that Republicans have to prosecute him, again, he has to plead the fifth. I don't understand it. I'm going to point out all of this is happening because this administration is going so poorly. We have to relitigate 2020.
You specifically mentioned Republicans. You specifically mentioned going after political enemies.
Yes.
It is true that Steve Bannon was thrown in jail for contempt of Congress. We can all agree that nobody is.
He didn't have a. Did he have a blanket pardon? I think he was on the pardon list or whatever, but he didn't have a blanket pardon, right? Actually, did he have any pardon, or did he just ask for one? Full conditional pardon in the final hours. Yeah, it nullified fraud charges.
the law. So if a Republican went to jail for the same thing, it's exactly true that Dr. Fauci, for contempt of Congress, we're not deciding if he was holding contempt of Congress. That vote that we just watched said he's in contempt of Congress. There was enough votes to try him.
Wait, he just ignored the subpoena altogether. That's the difference.
He went to jail.
Yes, because he ignored the subpoena.
Fauci's probably going to. He ignored the question.
Wait, time out. Ignoring a subpoena is different than pleading the fifth.
Yes.
Okay? Like, what is the
reason that the vote,
yes, it is. Like, I can't believe that you would even
You're
collect
ignoring
this.
it. Like,
It doesn't mean
the reason they voted is specifically because he was subpoenaed to come.
Yep.
He showed up.
Yes.
He didn't answer a single question.
Well, he didn't answer questions,
Therefore, he said plead the fifth over 100 times.
But he answered
We're not deciding. We're not U.S. senators last time I checked. Okay, the U.S. senators voted and decided that he was held.
Well, the trial will
doesn't-
determine whether he's
doesn't
guilty,
matter.
but he will be charged with contempt of Congress because the DOJ will charge him.
And they will fail immediately.
Okay, but then, by the way, this is the issue. You said that the Trump DOJ is not having success persecuting people, right?
Correct.
So
Like
why would Dr. Fauci be concerned about being persecuted if he has a presidential pardon?
I'll tell-
If I had a presidential pardon, I would answer the question that you would ask me.
What you guys are talking about right
What do you mean, why would he be concerned? You don't want to give people like free bait. Like, yeah, it's probably true that like the guardrails were hold, guys. Okay, but like, yeah, the guardrails were hold, and that you probably won't end up getting arrested, or well, you might end up getting arrested, but probably won't end up getting convicted. But why would you give people a free bait?
I'll tell you why, because
Should like Powell? I mean, not that I think Powell was like really, I don't know, dishonest against anything, but like there were a lot of questions he just kind of refused to answer in like the Fed press conferences, for example. Should Powell have just like not done that? Should he have openly answered every single question that the press asked him entirely? Like, probably not, right? Like he probably, even though was never a good chance that he was actually going to be like convicted of anything. Why would you like give people free bait? I mean, I think there are other like institutional is the wrong word. You know, the central bank is supposed to be independent, right? So there are like other political / institutional reasons the Federal Reserve chairman doesn't want to like comment on ongoing investigations, right? But probably part of the reason is because even though he didn't end up getting evicted, the charges were dropped, right? He probably never had a good chance of that happening. Why would you just give people free evidence? Like, you just don't want to do that.
When you have a bunch of people saying, we're going to charge you anyway, we're going to investigate you, that costs a lot of money, and takes a lot of time.
You know, he has no money problem.
Do you believe that Dr. Fauci is a bad person?
I believe he intentionally lied and admitted to it.
Okay,
I think
so,
he is.
okay, so obviously Dr. Fauci's been a public servant for, I don't know, 2 decades or 3
Sure,
decades.
government
He had an
employee,
incredible amount of success in the HIV/AIDS epidemic. He's been a very outstanding public servant.
I know he's allowed to lie.
No, I'm just saying, I just wanted to zoom out for a second and say
He's
that
a great person.
I say no evidence.
People do bad things and go to jail.
I just think he's a great person.
Well, that's what
Decades ago, but he's had years of service before
I
this.
think somebody who lied and scared us all unnecessarily to close schools and let kids have horrible test scores, set back their earnings.
Whoa.
Wait a minute, destroy millions of jobs, which is what the scary things that he said to American people did. I think he's a bad person. I'm not saying that that's the illegal conduct. The illegal conduct is invoking the fifth and being in contempt of Congress when you have presidential pardon.
So first and foremost, at a moment in the pandemic, it actually was 10 times deadlier than the flu and 4 times more infectious. So when Dr. Fauci,
I died in John Gleep. I lost all my money.
that's not true. That's first of all. Again, I gotta be honest. I don't know why I'm saying something and you're taking an entirely different statement. It's a straw man throughout this entire conversation. So to be clear, it was factually correct that COVID was 10 times deadlier at one point in the pandemic and 24 times more infectious. When it comes to a pandemic, playing it safe than sorry is the move. Because we had a million Americans
Safe, keep us out of school.
guys.
Are you going to monologue or ask a question?
I've been speaking for less than 30 seconds and you've interrupted 3 times. So I just want to understand. I'm getting there. So I think playing it better safe than sorry with people's lives is probably the move, especially with the pandemic, especially given that a million Americans died. And as Joe Biden said in the 2020 debate, there were Americans sitting around their tables that night with an empty chair because Donald Trump couldn't care less. He was saying in public that it was going to go away by Easter. In private, he was saying, it's pretty infectious, it can move by the air and it's killing people. And so I think playing it safer than sorry is better. And who knows who could have died if we said, keep the schools open, no mask, no social distancing, just go about it.
So you agree with closing the schools, Harry?
So now we have a bunch of scientific papers that came out and said probably not the right move. But hindsight is 2020. In 2020, I would have said, play it safe than sorry. I don't want one of my classmates dying.
Okay, but
so we were wrong to do it. Fauci had the information that we didn't because he was actually the expert.
What information did he have?
He said he's
Well, that's not. I mean, you can make that argument. I don't have a super strong opinion on the argument about with the information we have at the time, what the best course of action was. I think it's definitely plausible that even with the information at the time, we went too far and things like closing schools. I think it's probably more likely than not. On balance, I would say that's the case, but that's not what Harry was referring to. Papers that came out after the fact, right? He's saying after the fact. Now we have these papers saying it probably wasn't the right move, but based on the information we had at the time, maybe it was the right move. Wait, I'm a retard. I just realized. Never mind. It's fine. Okay, it was worth it. Okay, I gambled my money and I came out on top. You guys can see how much money I have.
But
But there's a claim that you make that's actually false. I got to call you out. You specifically said that there are empty chairs at the dinner tables of Americans tonight because of COVID. There absolutely is. There's also, and you're ignoring it, empty chairs at dinner tables because Dr. Fauci went on national TV and said if you get the shot, you're not going to get COVID. People got COVID and died. It was factually untrue when he went on TV and said over and over again, you get the shot, you're good.
Yes, thank you. Bring up this one quote infinitely.
What's so incredibly frustrating about the Republican movement and what you guys are saying right now, because vaccines have never been 100% for anything. There are some that have eliminated polio and things like that, and people don't want them to get them, and measles and things. Wait.
He said
when Dr. Fauci said, yeah, if you get the vaccine, you have a less likely chance to die, that is objectively true. It is what he said, and that's what the scientists were saying, that's what doctors were saying. It's objectively true, without a shadow of a doubt. It can't be debated.
His lies led to American
Excuse me. It's 100% true without a shadow of a doubt that if you get the COVID vaccine, you are less likely to die from COVID, and if you get infected with COVID, you are less likely to experience serious symptoms.
The concern with Dr. Fauci is that he had information on lies to the American public. One of the easiest and first lies was about masks, right? He first told people, don't get a mask, the masks are not effective. And then he's like, yes, everybody needs to get a mask because it was about the mask shortage. Let me continue this.
Sure.
He lied about the masks. He lied about the schools. They closed the schools because of the recommendation of the federal government thanks to him. That's a huge problem because he destroyed American education. Millions of people were affected in their jobs because they didn't want to take the vaccine and they were forced to. Look, I think...
Not by the government.
By the state governments, of course, state governments did it to employees. Private employers are a recommendation of the federal government. But wait a minute, Fauci is the one who recommended it. We're talking about Fauci in the moment. Fauci recommended it, and because of him, is that many employers required it. Right? That's
a good recommendation to make.
Do you think it's a good recommendation to fire somebody because they didn't want to get the vaccine?
It's a good recommendation that if you want to go to school, you have the polio and measles vaccine.
So for vaccines, we're not talking about that. We're talking about
okay, employers. It's good for employers to have their employees have vaccines so they don't spread disease.
No, we're talking about the COVID vaccine.
Great. Yes.
Employers don't require other vaccines.
But there's no. Hold on. But two things.
They're not asking your vaccination record to work at the firefighters.
It depends. Actually, that's not true. It depends on the job you're working. So nurses have to have a vaccine.
We're talking about even newsrooms.
You're saying jobs.
Even newsrooms.
But you both shook your head when he said that Fauci shut down schools and that results in lower test scores. It's specifically in Fauci's diary. Again, have not integrity for both of you to go check it out. He wrote that he had phone calls with both the governors of California and New York. They both told them on the phone calls that they were going to turn around and shut both of their states down. Robert Redfield, who was the director of the CDC at the time, called both governors back and said that's not good. You don't need to shut your states down. So how did that turn out? They listened to Fauci, his lies. They shut their schools down. And is it true or not that test scores went down because Fauci decided he wanted to get his TV time?
So if Fauci was lying and knew he was lying, why did he want to shut down all the schools?
Because he got more PR off of it. The guy got to be on TV. So you turn on your TV during COVID and not see
hold on.
But if he said COVID's not a big deal,
I just want to be clear. The accusation is that Dr. Fauci.
It's not an accusation. He said it.
So Dr. Fauci, knowing that he shouldn't shut down schools, shut down a bunch of schools for PR reasons.
They wanted to highlight the gravity of the pandemic and I think that contributed to it. I think that the problem with doing that is that we knew shutting down schools wasn't going to prevent the pandemic, wasn't going to save lives, but it was going to destroy the education sector.
Wait. Just to be clear, shutting down the schools, there was like a pro-cons list. So now we have come to the conclusion that it was better to have kept the schools open and had some infections as opposed to closing them.
Hold on, give me a second, people.
It wasn't just like, opening the schools would not contribute.
Not really, because
it's not like shutting down the schools would have not contributed to the pandemic at all because it probably would have.
I do disagree with that.
Well, you can disagree. I mean, doctors.
No. Well, but doctors don't have full truth.
Well, this is why. Yes, they do.
This is why I
was going to say this earlier, which is I said, where does Fauci get the information? What I meant by that is, again, hindsight is 20/20. So obviously, the limited amount of information that we had at the time, still learning, suggested that the pros outweighed the cons in terms of closing the schools. And the second point I want to make that was surprising that you made, being like someone who's very like anti-socialist, we're all going to die. It's like private businesses absolutely have the right to, if Walmart wants to say we don't want employees to work at our stores if they don't have the vaccine, that's well within their right. And Terry's point about schools are local governments. Again, if I want to go to high school, I have to provide a list of vaccinations that I got. I don't see it as any different if the COVID vaccine is added to that. You don't have a right as a U.S. citizen to
a job
to work. And you also don't have a right if your kids can't get vaccinated to protect the rest of the
community. So I agree with the right question, but the question here is not about the right of employers to associate freely with employees, which I fully agree with. The question here is that it was wrong for Dr. Fauci to recommend that to employers because it was not actually something beneficial.
Your point is you said he didn't have all the information. You think that Dr. Fauci didn't sit with a CDC director? No. The CDC director publicly said we don't need to shut down schools. He said it today. I listened to the comments. I didn't say Robert Redfield.
Yeah, and who was he aligned with?
The guy being
Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump was running for re-election and he didn't want to lose. That's why Donald Trump was in public saying
Donald Trump was to keep us in school so to keep our scores up.
And Donald Trump didn't care.
I think Donald Trump was also lied to by Dr. Fauci. That's pretty obvious. Everybody was.
No, absolutely not. Donald Trump.
No, Dr. Fauci didn't like Trump.
No. Donald Trump
didn't lie at all. He's perfect national security. He's a saint.
Yeah, he actually is. He served under like a bunch of different Republican and Democrat presidents. Has done well with AIDS. Apparently, he's a mastermind. No, absolutely not.
Did you see him on TV beforehand?
I will say.
Or are there now thousands on Amazon?
I saw him on TV.
You guys enjoying this insightful reaction commentary, by the way? I'm a good streamer. Give me a second.
He was part of creating a vaccine that happened under Donald Trump that was great. He was part of making recommendations to keep us safe. And by the way, I feel as if somebody close to one of you died as a result of COVID, you would take a much different position on lockdowns and having more restrictions around the pandemic.
My grandfather died of COVID.
And great. And so the fact that you're sitting here and being like, oh, more restrictions and having people go not be in the schools or things like
probably not the greatest wording there, Harry.
Having masks or vaccine mandates, Dr. Fauci should not be in prison. He has done a lot for the American people. He's done a lot for American health and advancing our discoveries in science.
As I've said, I agree with the ICC. The Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested and tried for his crimes.
Oh boy.
For anyone else charged by the ICC. My administration has reviewed every avenue available under applicable law to determine whether New York City could execute the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant.
This is probably Martino's prompt because he lives in New York and he talks about Wandami a lot.
Netanyahu came here. It is clear that we do not have the independent legal authority.
And he talks about Iran a lot.
To enforce this warrant. The federal government, however, does, and I call on them to join the ICC and execute this warrant. And I want to be equally clear. Benjamin Netanyahu is not welcome in New York City, nor is any other war criminal at large.
Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal.
Guys, I keep having higher hopes.
I know.
Damn.
Be in agreement on this one, maybe.
Yeah, look, I'll start. The prompt is Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. And I know that this can very quickly go into Israel committing genocide, etc. But to stick to the war criminal standpoint, besides the ICC, Amnesty International, a lot of international groups correctly stating it's a genocide and there are war crimes going on. I think we have a multitude of examples of this, right? The first one that comes to mind is when a nonprofit organization came in to deliver food into Gaza. Mostly, I think there was one Canadian American citizen, a couple people from Australia. They were in a convoy of 3 marked with their vans were marked with their logo, and they coordinated with the IDF, and all 7 of those people died because the IDF bombed.
That's probably not the best case, honestly. The World Central Kitchen, I believe is what it was. That food store, probably not the best case. Because I think, from what I remember, we have some understanding of why that happened. I think there was there was a miscommunication about how many cars there would be. And then that someone was flying a drone? I have to go back and look at it.
On them, and then the IDF came out and said it was a grave error. I think that's one of a multitude of examples of Benjamin Netanyahu not only committing war crimes, but extending this entire thing for his own self-preservation. I'd agree with Joe Biden on this, who is obviously a pretty pro-Israel member of a political entity where he's clearly stated.
See, Mr. Beat tried to debunk Matt Walsh's Civil War doc, but didn't make a single counter argument I saw the Mr. Beat video in my recommended at one point. I did not watch it.
That Benjamin Netanyahu is only interested in continuing the chaos of all this for his own self-preservation, and he's trying to protect staying in power. If he doesn't go along with his right flank, people like Ben Gvir, who have said things like, as it relates to Lebanon, for every one Israeli mother who dies, 1,000 Lebanese mothers have to cry.
Oh no, the quote.
All of Lebanon must burn. You take these incredibly right-wing figures that somehow Benjamin Netanyahu is further left than them, but he has to agree with them because if he doesn't, the government will collapse, he'll lose power, etc. So I think we've seen several examples of this.
So the definition of war criminal, so that we understand first, the United States is not a party to the ICC, so none of this is about legality. We're talking just about ethics, perhaps, in this case.
Yep.
The definition of war criminal is when you intentionally.
So, true, but one, the Palestinian Authority is a party to the ICC, and because the attacks are taking place in territory that the Palestinian Authority considers to be theirs, which is Gaza, even though de facto Hamas controls Gaza, not the PA, there is a legal basis for saying the war crimes there still matter by the ICC standards, right? The same reason, Russia's not a party to the ICC either, but the attacks are taking place in Ukraine, which is a party to the ICC, so there is still jurisdiction there. But second of all, there is just like customary international humanitarian law that I think you could argue, Israel's violated on a decent number of occasions. That applies no matter what, right? That would be sufficient also for war crimes.
Target civilians. You yourself said the IDF did something by error.
That's what the IDF says.
Right, but the IDF said it was by error. So you need to prove that it was intentional, and not only that it was intentional, but that it was Benjamin Netanyahu who ordered it, which is a very different thing. Not a general, not something else. You're accusing a specific individual.
I don't remember the exact standards, but I don't think it has to be, literally give the order to do this specific war crime. It can be some general culture of things of that nature. Hold on.
The other important thing about the ICC is that the ICC is an extremely biased and wrong group of people. There's been a ton of, in fact, there was one of the justices themselves that was accused of crimes. The ICC has refused to convict Nicolas Maduro, who was then arrested by the United States. Mamdani, who has decried Benjamin Netanyahu for being a war criminal, always obsessed with Israel because it's not really about Netanyahu, it's about Israel, it's about the Jews. He says nothing about Maduro being arrested in New York City for real charges. In fact, he says that Maduro and Venezuela had great elections that were examples to the world in 2013. So I think the left is very hypocritical on the issue of Netanyahu, and you can like or dislike him. Maybe you think he's a bad or good prime minister. I don't really have an opinion. It's his country. It's very specific. But I don't think that we can apply the label war criminal just because he's conducting a war when the United States did much worse things in World War II to even civilians, by the way. If Netanyahu is a war criminal, then Obama is a war criminal.
And I think there were a number of, they're going to agree that Obama is a war criminal, but I think there were a number of war crimes that the Allies did commit in World War II. I think that's fairly well known. I think probably Israel's conduct is, I don't believe it rises to the level of genocide, but, probably their conduct in war has been bad enough that there have been a non-trivial amount of war crimes committed. I think probably potentially Vietnam level. I think there are many things the Allies did, not the Allies, but the U.S. did, and I guess France too. They were involved in the Indochina wars. That probably were, war crimes, right? Hot take, guys. The My Lai massacre was a war crime.
For bombing Libya, then Bush is a war criminal, then Clinton is a war criminal, then Reagan is a war criminal, then the other Bush, then FDR, then LBJ, then Kennedy. Then
the issue is they're just going to agree with that.
I'm going to actually, can I just ask one question? And then I'll let you speak, I promise. I was just going to say, besides the ICC for a second, and I agree you have to prove intent. You would agree that there's a host of other organizations, including the two largest, I believe, nonprofits in Israel, who have labeled this a genocide and called Benjamin Netanyahu war criminal. So you would argue that all of those people have some political motivation?
Well, certainly within Israel, there's some political motivation. Some people who dislike Netanyahu, I think we can all agree on that. But I certainly would say that there is no genocide. I think this does not meet the definition of genocide at all. The population of Gaza has continued to increase. That is not what a genocide looks like. I think that's pretty obvious.
And you're exactly right. There's people in a political country that disagree with their political leader, this is what this whole table's about right now. So it's not shocking of a statistic that you quoted there. What I think needs to be pointed out is that statement correctly pointed out that said he's a war criminal. Okay, so if you look at America here, we're all Americans. We're very proud of the fact that in our country it's innocent until proven guilty. It's a warrant out for his arrest.
Said Harry Sisson, it is indeed.
He's a war criminal. The guy's owed a trial. Hold on. I think there's a lot of flaws with Israel. I think everybody can agree that they shouldn't be funding American elections. I think we need to get that money out. I think we don't need to be funding any of them. We send blank checks. Period. We don't need to be having proxy wars.
He's angry.
I think everybody can stand on that, but you cannot look at a democratically elected prime minister and say that after his own citizens were civilians specifically were kidnapped and murdered, that you can just say, oh, him responding to that is somehow making him a war criminal.
Yeah.
I think we haven't mentioned Hamas.
I don't think they're saying merely him responding to that is what makes him a war criminal. I think they're saying, well, depends on the person, I guess. But I think there's specific context that people point to.
Yes.
Go ahead. I hate Hamas.
Yes, good.
No problem. I think we should also just like reset on the topic of war criminal, like the actual wording. You're saying he hasn't been convicted. Yes, we all know that he hasn't been convicted. We're using the colloquial term of criminal, meaning like the understanding that we all have. Donald Trump does it. We've done it, for whatever. Trump calls Joe Biden.
I mean, it's not like they would care if he was predicted. Like he, is already indicted. They don't care. They've already stated they don't care about the international organizations that say he is a war criminal, which I think is like, in some cases at least, fair. Like, I think a lot of them are kind of cringe. Okay, do say a lot of cringe things. Cringe a lot of times. Looks like you're watching Brian Holland, Harry Sisson, Parker. His name is Chris, I think. Chris Mole or something. And Indian Khan to fall off is crazy. What?
Well, Joe Biden's not been convicted. So let's just set the record straight. Then we're saying he's a war criminal. We're saying that based on what we've seen so far, that he probably would be convicted if he did go. To your response, what happened on October 7th was horrific. I don't think anybody is going to disagree with that. It was awful. We saw the photos and videos on social media. It was disgusting. Israel had a right in that moment in time to absolutely defend their country and respond to Hamas in the way that they wanted to. They had that right, no doubt. It's what has come after that, the many years after that. And so it's not just the ICC who has called Netanyahu a war criminal. The United Nations has put out a number of reports on.
Look, I forget. Not that I would ever DRM a book. I forget how to DRM the book. What do I do with this file? Fuck.
This stuff. For example, a couple of reports on how they've specifically targeted children with intent. They have specifically starved the children of Gaza. I mean, you can laugh, but we've seen
What you're missing there, into Gaza. I'll let you finish. Okay. What you're missing there, just on specific points, I don't forget what you're talking about. Specifically with the food trucks and with the schools with children. Okay. You're ignoring the fact that Hamas, the terrorists in the situation, continue to hide their military equipment underneath schools, and they continue to try to steal some of these food rations before they get to the starving children in Gaza. So here's my question: were there starving kids in Gaza before Benjamin Netanyahu? Were there starving kids in Gaza before this war?
I'll let you finish your point.
Well, what I was saying, to get back to what I was saying, but we can answer yes. I mean, obviously, Gaza has been in
Gaza's been. That's what the criminal charge is for. They're saying these starving kids in Gaza.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that charge is wrong.
No. It's not saying that this is just a new thing. It's saying that this has been escalated and it's been done deliberately.
I think Gazans dying, it's a horrible thing, civilians that are innocent. But as you said, they hide behind children.
Yeah.
And
right.
Does that mean that then Israel cannot do anything because Hamas hires child soldiers because they indoctrinate children to kill Jews? That's what they do. They have Teletubbies, like children's cartoons, teaching kids how to kill Jews. That is the horrible thing that Hamas does, and that's why those kids can fight against Israel. But then you're saying that Israel is evil for defending itself against that.
We didn't say that.
If I may, really quick.
Yeah, we've never actually made that claim. But we don't think that you're evil for defending yourself against that.
Even if the children are soldiers?
Also, wait. That's an entirely different conversation we can talk about.
No, it's this
but there are two 16 and 17-year-old Hamas soldiers.
And that's bad. But to be clear, not every child in Gaza that's been killed by Israel has been a child soldier.
I think that there have been collateral deaths.
Millions of people.
Not every child is child soldiers.
The people have that debate all the time.
Do you think so? I asked yes or no. Is Barack Obama a war criminal? I'll go to you, I promise. Is he a war criminal?
I mean, what are you specifically alleging?
You specifically said that not every child is a soldier. Yeah. So by your definition, by that scenario, Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal.
What specific?
Are you saying that Barack Obama, specifically when he bombed Lebanon, Syria, when those situations happened, was he a war criminal?
What specific bombing are you referencing?
They're probably gonna say yes.
Like he bombed generally.
Yeah, you're not quoting specific.
Well, he did.
So what do you think Benjamin is doing intentionally?
I'm quoting schools.
I think that there's a. I think I would argue that you two are being very black and white in this instance. It's not PEMDAS. Like two war criminals war crimes don't cancel out. So I agree that the ICC also alleges Hamas is committing war crimes. Hiding soldiers amongst plain civilians in plain clothing is a war.
They did also indict Sinwar and someone else, right? I forget who.
Crime. But I actually would go back to a phone call that Biden and Netanyahu had, where Biden said, "You can't be carpet bombing these communities," and he responded and said, "Why not? You guys did the same thing." I think similarly this is kind of a different conversation, but after 9/11, the United States had a right to respond, but then we spent 20 years overseas, and a lot of people died. 500,000 Iraqis died from a variety of different things, etc. So our actions in relation to 9/11, like torture, like documented torture, yes, we had a right to respond, but that doesn't mean we have also a right to commit war crimes. And so I think similarly here, yes, Hamas is committing war crimes. Yes, I agree, Hamas is incredibly evil. But again, this has now been going on close to 3 years. My main question is why is Israel still not letting journalists in the country? Like this seems unprecedented to me.
Israel lets in journalists.
No, I don't. No, they don't. And I think that
CNN doesn't have a reporter in Israel.
Well, no. Here's the point I'm making: is that currently there is no journalists allowed, no outside independent journalists. And Israel is allowing.
What do you mean?
Inside.
Fox, CNN, ABC.
Journalists are only from outside of Gaza.
I'm assuming they're saying into Gaza without supervision from the IDF, which I think is true, but probably there are like non-strictly propaganda reasons for them to do that.
Only allowed in when they're escorted by the military.
They're
a war zone.
Yeah.
Then you would write an article and say Benjamin Netanyahu killed journalists. No, they literally are walking through a war zone.
It's escorted with the military, but also under extreme restrictions. And so a lot of the footage that we've seen online in the past couple of years from Gaza have been people on the ground. It hasn't been like a Fox News reporter or CNN. They have gone in under very, very specific circumstances.
So then wait, I'll correct myself and then I'll let you. I'm sorry, it may be possible that Israel's letting in journalists, but
Okay, guys. I would never, ever, 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 ever remove the DRM from a book. Do not ask why I was not showing screen. I like Richard Hanani's book, Hackistocracy. He talks about some of the Fauci stuff. I like some of the stuff in here. Like, I think there are some... I think he makes the case that even with the knowledge we had at the time, like, much of the lockdown stuff for, like, schools probably was not... or should not have been expected to be net positive. But I think it's just the case that, like, people, like, way over-exaggerate some of the stuff, and then they... It's probably just, like, bigger deals when I think there's, like, a more... Structural is not the right word. But I think there's, like, much broader concerns with the MAGA people in power right now, and to a lesser extent, the DSA people, because they don't have power right now, you don't see, like, examples of it happening, really. But
again, with IDF supervision and strict security around that. And I agree, for a certain period of time, that should be the case when the war starts. But I've listened to several journalists speak that now going on year 3, I believe, it's pretty unprecedented in a war zone to still be having such... Yeah, but there's still... I
said the end of that war, though.
He did say that. But I've listened to many other journalists speak about the fact that they've been in other countries where genocides are taking place, where horrible, horrific things are taking place, and they've been able to get in more freely and have more free ability to report than Israel.
I understand. Okay, you're saying all these war crimes are bad. What is your response? What should Benjamin Netanyahu have done differently? Just not responded? Just not have done anything?
No,
and then October 7th part 2 happens.
No, I'll answer that question. Again, I think 2 things. Number 1, obviously, I've never been to Israel. I'm not going to claim to be a general of what Benjamin Netanyahu should or shouldn't have done. He has some right to a response. The second thing to look at here as we talk about intent is why has this gone on for almost 3 years, and why does Benjamin Netanyahu continue this war? Because for his own self-preservation, he will go to prison as soon as he is out because he's facing other corruption charges.
By your definition, Hamas needs to attack Israel again for Israel to keep going. No, that's what you're saying. It's been so far outside of it. That's exactly what you're saying. You said that he had the right at the beginning to respond. Now Hamas hasn't stopped attacking. So you're saying there needs to be a second October 7th?
No, I just think that there should be, instead of
to have the right to do it.
That is, wait, can I just pause? Like, alleging that Chris wants more Jews in Israel to die.
That's not what I said.
You just said he wants to...
That's gross.
Let's keep it up here. Let's not go down there.
What I'm saying is that the standard that you're applying to Israel to defend itself will require constant attacks by Hamas for them to continue attacking. And the truth is, to say that Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal is to be wrong, because I don't think he really intends to kill civilians. Israel has defended itself in the most humane way possible in a war since...
I don't agree with that. But even if you don't, so intent is relevant for, like, you know, genocide stuff and failures in targeting, failures in discrimination. You can still fail in proportionality without intent. Now, I think people use proportionality in a dumb way, where they use proportionality to just mean, like, the same number of Israelis should die in proportion to, like, number of Palestinians, right? That's a dumb definition of proportionality. But it is absolutely the case that, like, Israel just has, like, way, way higher, like, non-civilian or non-combatant casualty cutoff ratios, I think is what they call them, than, like, the U.S. did in Afghanistan, which is, like, the maximum number of civilians, the maximum number of collateral damage that you're able to cause compared to the level of target you're killing. It is just true that Israel has, like, way higher levels of that than, like, the U.S. did in Afghanistan. Now, it makes sense. Now, there is, like, a legitimate reason for having at least somewhat of a higher level, given that the direct and concrete military gain is oftentimes higher for Israel because they are, like, literally, you know, bordering Gaza, right? You know, bordering bordering the West Bank and stuff, as opposed to the U.S., which was across the world, didn't face the same type of, like, genuine threats, but nonetheless quite high. For the record, everybody notice how non-fun is avoiding the question. That's true. That's true. Which question? What question? Oh, did you praise God today? I praised Bibi Netanyahu 10 times today already, don't worry.
World War II, in the number of civilians killed in a war zone, especially in an urban war zone, where the terrorists themselves recruit and indoctrinate kids to fight and kill themselves. It's a true tragedy that's what's happened. I hope that it stops, because human life, I don't want human life to be lost. But the truth is, Israel is really fighting a horrible thing, and Benjamin Netanyahu is not a war.
Well, now what we're doing is we're talking to them in the form of a negotiation. It begins tomorrow afternoon, and we'll see if it's true. I'd love to do that, save a lot of lives, save a lot of unnecessary power, to be honest with you. It would take many, many years to ever build it back. If it could, I don't think it would be even buildable back. So we had an attack that would be the biggest attack since World War II, and it would have been disastrous for them. And they didn't want us to do it. And frankly, Saudi Arabia didn't want it either. They thought that a deal is imminent. And the deal is imminent, having to do with the Hormuz Strait, and also ultimately the denuclearization of it. So when I hear that, I say, well, do we want to go and be this? Now, there's a group of people that would like me to just do it. And there's another group of people that does not want me to do it.
Such a hard life.
We're ready to go anytime we want. Would I rather make a deal? I'm not looking to kill people.
Trump's war with Iran is necessary to keep America safe.
All right, I can start on this one since I haven't. Look, I think that obviously.
Sorry, what was it?
Iran is necessary to keep America safe.
Oh,
All right, I can start on this one.
when was this filmed? This was released a day ago. It was probably filmed quite a bit before that.
I haven't. Look, I think that obviously the war in Iran is costly, like any war. And that is the price that the country unfortunately is paying for now, for safety, really, for national security. The truth is Iran was building nuclear weapons. They've been doing it for a very long time. Not only are they building nuclear weapons, but short-range missiles and rockets that can destroy and obstruct the Strait of Hormuz, which has always been their point of leverage, of course. And the trouble...
Which, like, you know, in principle, I think there are reasons you can go to war against regimes that just generally are not humane or good, and which pose some threat to global stability, right? Global trade, things like that. But, like, they probably only gotten more leverage over the Strait of Hormuz. It seems like I think the deal they're referring to here probably was the deal that actually gave them some ability to charge tolls on the Strait of Hormuz.
Administration is protecting not just the Middle East, but the United States and world oil supply by ending the military capabilities of the Iranian regime. Now, ideally, what would I prefer to happen? I would prefer for this to end as soon as possible. I would prefer for the Iranian regime to either be completely obliterated in their military capacities, or for there to be a change in the regime so that they never build again nuclear weapons. Because the unfortunate truth is if this current Islamic Republic of Iran continues in power, we're going to have to keep bombing them every 20 years so that they don't build nuclear weapons or block the Strait of Hormuz. And so what Trump is doing is definitely the right choice for now.
And I would say, just on the agreement side, that we've seen what happens when we do diplomacy. We had diplomacy under Jimmy Carter, and there were 66 hostages who sat there in captivation under diplomacy. We saw it happen when Barack Obama did diplomacy. He had a red line in the sand that he drew with a crayon that was the JCPOA. And I'll ask you specifically, was there a continuation of building of nukes under the JCPOA? The answer is yes. There were 11 built. So there was this opportunity for...
I don't think it's widely accepted that there was a continuation of building nukes. I think it's understood they continued enriching uranium to the level that they were allowed to do so. And I think it's you could argue they probably didn't adhere to some of the other principles about just like not, or at least it probably didn't stop them from like funding proxy groups and such. Fuck, I don't have enough money. I might have to, do I have enough money if I sell stuff? But my understanding is pretty widely accepted that they did, in fact, adhere to that.
11, do you just need 11 nuke capability to turn your light on at night? You don't need to. And specifically, as we have Trump continuing this right now, he has made clear that we have to do peace through strength. The strength part to get to the peace. So the president's done that, and I'm so glad that you two weren't sitting in the situation room when you were told that they had the capability of putting 11 nukes at the U.S., the same country that says that's America, because neither of you would have had the balls to actually stand up to the big bully of the West, who chants at our country, who actually tried to kill our president. We have people in jail for that. And finally, and I'll let you respond, I promise. As we sit here, you would have said, oh, I care more about the gas prices, and I would care more about the poll numbers. The president cared more about protecting American lives at the end of the day, and we look forward to this ending and everybody coming home safely.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Please.
And then I'll start.
And then you gotta answer.
You would define what you want to see from this is regime change. Is that correct?
I think that what I want is for America to be safe.
Wait, I barely have enough.
And I think that the only way to guarantee safety in permanent ways would be for there to not be an Islamic regime,
So regime.
but it would also be safety to destroy the military capabilities in a long-term way.
And I think we let the people do the regime change. I think we let the protesters that came in, did the government, they killed 52,000 of them. You're with your red lights defending the government.
Trump didn't want to help the protesters. They heard protesting and he didn't want to do airstrikes.
They killed 52,000 protesters. If you say this war's not safe,
So we should go to war with Russia then, because if we're just going to declare war on people who kill their own citizens, then we declare war
death
on
to America. No.
Yeah, there's some death to
There's some
America.
Americans. There's some Democrat candidates.
100%. Anyway,
Like obviously again, the hypocrisy kind of hits you in the face that I think that the reason Donald Trump's more unpopular than he's ever been is because he promised this exact thing wouldn't happen, and it's happening. And
what did he promise?
He promised no new wars and no regime change.
But what else did he promise?
Please.
That Iran would never have a nuclear weapon.
I think he was on a podcast exactly 1 month before the election talking about how if we can't sustain regime change in a war we can't sustain regime change in Iran because we can't even take care of our own citizens here, and if you vote for me, that won't happen.
Well, what I can tell you is he has been very consistent. You can disagree with him, of course, but he's been very consistent since the 80s. That, in fact, he wanted to take Carib Islands since the 80s. He wanted to attack Iran since the 80s, regardless of what you think, whether that's right or wrong.
Okay, well, I'd say, again, besides the hypocrisy standpoint, there has been no other president to do what we're seeing now because of the consequences of what we're seeing now. He said it would be a 2 to 3 week incursion. We're now on month 6. He has said at least minimum, according to last June, we're recording this in August. So as of June, 38 different times he had said on TV or on True Social directly that a ceasefire was imminent or around the corner or some version of that. I also want to point out that there's multiple examples in that more than 40 times of suspiciously high volume trades occurring 15 minutes before those announcements are made, specifically oil shorts or oil calls, et cetera, because there's insider trading going on. Regardless of that point, again, the reason that no other president I think has engaged on this is because number one, you see the disaster that occurs. Regime change is a hard thing, especially geographically in a place like Iran. And I don't think any of us want to see Iran with a nuclear weapon. But we've seen other presidents successfully attack this without putting American troops on the ground and losing 18 of them and seeing thousands and thousands of casualties.
Well, there are American troops on the ground in
Well,
Iran.
I'm
They've
sorry.
attacked American military bases abroad.
I apologize, but without putting American troops in harm's way, I should say.
Well, how many American troops were killed by Iran during Obama's presidency?
Well, hold on 1 second.
No, I'm asking.
I don't know.
Well, maybe more, because the thing is, Iran has been financing proxies throughout the region.
They were killed though because we were in Iraq at the time, though, right? Like, I don't know if that's really. I don't know exactly how fair that is. Although he's bringing up the proxy groups, I wonder if he's going to bring up the fact that they.
No, I'm asking.
I don't know.
Well, maybe more. Because the thing is, Iran has been financing proxies throughout the region who put bombs. I mean, remember, who killed al-Baghdadi? It was Trump in the first term, who was a killer of American troops. Now, you might think, maybe this is not the right strategy to pursue it, but I think we can all agree that keeping America safe includes not letting Iran have nuclear weapons, right?
I'll let you talk, I promise. I'll get to you. I'm just responding to what he said. Hold on. We're going to either one's fine. But you said specifically that the strategy didn't work previously. You said that his strategy is not working right now. We can't go back to the old strategy.
Why was the strategy not working?
Americans were dying overseas, and they still were able to put 11 nukes. So clearly it wasn't successful.
I think two things. Number one, I understand that Iran is financing people like the Houthis and Hamas, but focusing specifically on Iran having a nuclear weapon, I don't think we have any evidence currently to suggest that they were 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon, like Donald Trump stated.
That's not what Donald Trump said. The U.S. military said that.
Okay, but Donald Trump said that those exact words 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon.
So many memes about it, bro. I don't know what's true. Oh shit, I'm gonna die. I'm too locked in on John Gleep, guys. You expect me to do foreign policy?
Smarter than U.S. intel. Just so we know.
Donald Trump, you're claiming to be smarter than U.S. intel.
No, I'm trusting U.S. intel because I trust
U.S. intel said that they weren't close to.
No, they said 11 and they were close. That's what
but
the
U.S.
president
intel
said.
report are you citing? Because Tulsi Gabbard, who was in the Trump administration, said in front
Fuck my money.
of government, in front of Congress, she testified in front of oath that they weren't near having a nuclear weapon. They only started doing that after the United States pulled out. So technically, they were still part of the United States.
11 nukes weren't made overnight. But there's my question for you. As I get to my point before you interrupt me, as we continue to have happen here, what were they going to do with 11 nukes? They don't need enough enriched uranium to build 11 nukes to turn their nightlights on at night, Harry. The same people that did to America, the same people that tried to kill our president, the same people that killed 52,000 of their own protesters in their own.
I don't know about this. Why am I? Does it mean 11 tons? I don't know what he's on about.
We're trying to nuke America. They weren't trying to go to bed.
See, that's insane claim to make because we have no intel that they were trying to nuke the United States.
What do you mean? They claim they want to do it all the time.
Wait. I think people in the streets chanting death to America doesn't mean
The Iranian government officials saying that they are going to use the nukes to destroy the United States and
any
Israel.
evidence to suggest that they've made political movements toward this goal? The more important question is, sure, there's a lot of countries around the world that say a lot of things.
I mean, I think there are plenty of Iranian extremists that like have said statements adjacent to that at the very least. I don't know if there's one that has literally said like we should just fucking nuke the US. Maybe there have been, but I think probably the stronger argument, which is from my recollection at least mostly true, is that probably, like, I think the JCPOA probably encouraged some amount of moderation in Iran, like there were more moderates elected to the General Assembly in Iran. 2 last plan. Fuck, I need the fuel though. And Trump's harsher rhetoric and Trump's withdrawing from it unilaterally and killing the general in his first term probably does the opposite. Probably leads to more extremists being elected. Now maybe that's just like won't matter because we'll just overthrow the regime, but I think that's pretty unlikely. And even if we did, I think it's like a decent probability that doing that would be net positive, but it's not a sure thing. There are certainly ways that it could go bad.
The Ayatollah can say that they chant that to America. North Korea says they're going to nuke us all the time, etc. I don't think you're advocating that we go into these countries. The more important question is, do we have evidence besides Donald Trump's words that they were, within 2 weeks, they were 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon? Because the reason I ask that is, sure, they've been trying to make a nuclear bomb for 20 years, but I don't think any American wants troops in harm's way and $1.5 billion a day if we don't have direct evidence that, there is an imminent threat. Under Barack Obama, there were a lot of threats from Iran. That's why he pulled the CIA to the Oval Office. Under Bush, a program allegedly called Stuxnet was started and then finished under Barack Obama, where they hired some guy from Europe, brought him in, gave him a flash drive with a piece of malware on it, convinced the Iranians to hire this guy to fix their water pumps in their underground nuclear facilities. This guy went to Iran, got into their nuclear facilities, plugged it in, and because enriching uranium is very, it's a lot of math, equations, etc., their centrifuges every 3 or 6 months would spin one too many times. It's set back by all the evidence that we have. Iran's nuclear program anywhere from 1 to 5 years. So the only reason it was discovered was because some Iranian nuclear scientist took his computer outside, connected it to the internet, and the malware was all over the internet. The point I'm making is it's not like there's been presidents. It's not like Obama was softballing Iran. It's just, again, he wasn't, because number one, he prevents them from having a nuclear weapon. The JCPOA was a good deal.
He gave them billions of dollars.
But here's the real question: is why has no other president done?
Dog. The billions of dollars, a lot of that was their own money being unfrozen. So I think it's like a little bit misleading, but also the parts of it that were giving them money was for the weapons, the fucking Iran-Contra scandal, the weapons payments that Iran claimed they got gift on or whatever, that I think actually the ICC ordered and we just ignore them, which is probably, I don't have an issue necessarily with us ignoring that ICC ruling, but probably it's necessary to get them to sign the deal. Okay, probably you're going to have to give something up in negotiations, giving them a payment that they were technically legally entitled to. It's probably not the worst outcome in the world if you think the deal was net good, at least, which I understand they probably don't, and that's not, I don't think that's totally unreasonable. But
I think you're seeing the reason no other president has engaged in what we're seeing now.
Yes, I actually think that's where we're seeing.
Because Trump thinks with his own ego and Bibi Netanyahu egging him on that he can go topple the Iranian regime in 2 to 3 weeks. We're going on month 6, and I see no evidence to suggest that we're not in a worse position.
Response to what you said. I'll let you finish, and I'll promise I'll let you.
Sorry, I'm on one.
No, you're good. You're good. You specifically said how much money is going into foreign wars, and I've said from the beginning that this needs to be quick. Let's get our process done, and let's all come back, because I think every person at this table can agree that a lot more money needs to come away from foreign wars. You probably should have no more money into foreign wars, no more troops on the ground. I personally think that we should put all that money into.
Wow.
I think we should be kicking out some of these sleeper cells from Iran. They're in this country, and you're going to scoff and laugh. They got arrested for trying to kill our president. There was assassination planning against the president, against his family.
God.
Against Iranian dissidents in the United States.
So
Wait, again, wait. Were those illegal immigrants?
let's get our process done, and let's all come back, because I think every person at this table can agree that a lot more money needs to come away from foreign wars. You probably should have no more money into foreign wars, no more troops on the ground. I personally think that we should put all that money into deportations. I think we should be kicking out some of these sleeper cells from Iran. They're in this country, and you're going to scoff and laugh. They got arrested for trying to kill our president. There was assassination planning against the president.
Iranian arrested for plot to kill Trump. I remember this, but I don't think he was illegal immigrant, was he? Maybe I'm wrong. An Iranian national, but I don't think he. Came here illegally. Maybe he came here under a false identity. That could be the case. I'm just not sure though. Immigrated to the U.S. as a child and was deported in or about 2008 after serving 14 years in prison for a robbery conviction. Recently, she used a network of criminal associates he met at prison to supply the IRGC with operatives to conduct surveillance and assassinations of IRGC targets. 2 of the members are as co-defendants. They spent months surveilling U.S. citizens of Iranian origin. Victim 1 is an outspoken critic of the Iranian regime and has been the target of multiple prior. So it sounds like there's mostly citizens doing the work, and the other guy was a immigrant who came here as a child and then later was deported, but continued working mostly from Iran. He informed law enforcement that he was tasked on October 7, 2024 with providing a plan to kill President-elect Donald Trump.
His family, against specific members in his administration.
Against Iranian dissidents in the United States.
So they're not only in Iran. I agree. We should get back here and focus on America because they're in America.
So I don't think, I mean, he was deported, doesn't seem to have nothing to have stopped him.
All that money out of foreign wars, put it into deportations, and have those people rounded up and kicked out, because the same people that have been chanting death to America in our streets are trying to kill our president.
Can I ask a question, please? If the goal is then, the broad goal is to eliminate the nuclear threat and the Iranian regime falls, which again, I'd be curious what you'd say if it's been 2 years and this is still going on regardless. What's the plan after that?
Well, what I would say is the goal is to keep America safe. And I think we all have the same goal. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. Yes. So the question is, does it require military action to stop Iran from both closing the Strait of Hormuz and us being nuked at some point? I think that we got to a point, and you asked the question of whether, why haven't other presidents done this? We're seeing it, why now? What we're seeing is, right, Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz, exactly what they promised for 50 years. The difference is that no other president had the guts to actually stop Iran from building a nuclear weapon for fear of gas prices, because every president is electorally self-motivated. The difference is Trump obviously cannot run for re-election, so he doesn't really care as much, except for keeping the United States safe from the nuclear
And he's
threat.
right, because Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, who you both sat with, who you both endorsed, just said don't. That's all they said to Iran, and they kept enriching uranium. So don't does it work.
I'm sorry. I just want to point out that he's not self-motivated by he did
the electoral
calculation. He still believes he won the 2020 election.
That's not the question.
No,
The point is he's not running for 2028.
No, the point is that he's only motivated by one thing. Well, 2 things.
Well, his legacy now.
Well, 3 things then. Good point. Power, money, and legacy. Those are the only 3 things.
And he wants his legacy to be that Iran will never be a nuclear threat to America.
Which is why
exactly
how he got himself in this situation. It's so foolish, because we have evidence last year that Bibi Netanyahu showed up to the White House 7 different times, and Bibi Netanyahu tried to egg Joe Biden onto this. We have the evidence. He said no. Obama, same thing. He came 7 times to the White House / Mar-a-Lago and said, Donald Trump, you could.
He did what 7 times?
Secure your legacy as the one who ends the nuclear Iranian regime. You could do this. You could do this. And we have.
Maybe there's more to the Epstein stuff than I thought.
Trump. Bibi Netanyahu's full of shit. Don't listen to him. But because of Trump's own ego, because all he cares about is his legacy.
He always wanted to do this. I'm telling you, there are videos of him from the 80s. He wanted to do this. So he has nothing to do with
So you truly,
Netanyahu.
I just want to be clear. You truly believe that the reason Joe Biden and Obama didn't do this is because they're too weak on Iran?
Absolutely. Not only weak. Obama gave billions of dollars to Iran with the JCPOA. He lifted sanctions.
Oh my God.
Right. So that money wasn't American money that we handed to them. That was international money going to Iran. Donald Trump did the exact same thing as part of the ceasefire agreement that didn't last, and as part of that agreement as well. Lifting sanctions so that money could go to Iran. And then he also allowed Iran to sell. He also allowed Iran to sell oil. They made a bunch of money. The Wall Street Journal reported on this as well. They made a bunch of money from the period that Donald Trump allowed them to sell oil, and they invested that in this war.
You mean
and
like temporarily?
Also, final point I want to make, as part of that agreement as well, there were hundreds of billions of dollars that Trump agreed with Gulf nations and our allies to send to Iran for reconstruction. So you keep bringing up Obama sent money to Iran. Donald Trump was trying to send like 10 times, 20 times the amount of money that Obama sent, and by the way, didn't send because of sanctions being lifted.
President Trump has not sent any kind of cash to Iran. Let's begin by that. The difference is President Obama released the sanctions. You know what sanctions he released? He allowed the Iranian regime to collect cash that was in the United States and Western countries pre-Iranian revolution and be shipped back to Iranian regime. That's what he did.
Because again, that was a I don't think it's totally unreasonable to disagree with it, but I think that's just dependent on your view of the JCPOA. I think if you thought it was a good deal, it probably that's like just, you know, giving Iran a payment that they were technically legally entitled to. It's probably a fine cost worth paying.
That literally flew to Iran from Western countries, thanks to President Barack
Thanks to
Obama.
also Donald Trump who did that.
No, that's
Sorry,
thanks to
you-
Obama. The difference that Trump is doing now is that he's actually imposed the strongest sanctions ever on Iran. Iran has never been a more sanctioned country than now.
Part of the memorandum of understanding was obviously lifting a bunch of sanctions on Iran and giving them the ability to have this reconstruction fund that was like $1.7 billion.
Yeah, this was filmed a while ago, so don't know what the views would be now that that memorandum of understanding hasn't really amounted to anything.
Or whatever it was from the Gulf countries, but also for the first time in a long time, I don't know, maybe one of you knows this, but Iran had their oil sanctions temporarily lifted because there was such little oil in the market. Again, like when we talk about, I think that there's a tremendous
Don't worry, well, let's get the Venezuelan oil.
hypocrisy if you're going to say that Obama or Biden or any of these people enrich the Iranian regime when we're currently looking for potential solutions that include lifting sanctions, and we already temporarily lift oil sanctions. And I'll say one more thing. When we look at the state of where things are at right now, like if I'm Iran, I have an incredible amount of leverage because the Strait of Hormuz is still under my control, and you have an Ayatollah, hypothetically, that is more extreme than his father was, that has expressed more interest in building a nuclear weapon, and you were making a bunch of money when you were able to sell oil because the Trump administration lifted the sanctions because they had to do something economic.
He's also probably in a coma.
2 to 3 weeks. You've outlasted the two most powerful militaries on the face of the planet for 6 months. If I'm Iran, I'm incredibly emboldened. I have a leader who's more interested in a nuclear weapon, and I have more money, and I have the one leverage point, which is the Strait of Hormuz. Why are we in a better position now than we were 6 months ago?
What did the prompt specifically say? To keep America safe. What did Joe Biden and Kamala Harris do? They said don't. And we've all admitted there's been enriched uranium. You can dictate how much enriched uranium there was. There was enriched uranium under the Biden administration. They said don't. We bombed the heck out of them. Their Ayatollah's gone. I think America's safer.
Let me ask you one more question. Okay. Who do we think should be the president in 2028? I'm starting with my good friend Harry. Go ahead.
Me, well, hopefully a Democrat, and I think there are a lot of great options. John Ossoff, Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom. There's a long list. I won't bore you.
Okay, Harry. Okay, pleasantly surprised. All right. Okay. Not horrible. All right.
Yes, but yeah.
Look, I really like Marco Rubio. I'm not sure if he's going to run.
I was gonna say, I know he's gonna say Marco Rubio.
I was a Rubio guy in 16. I also like JD Vance, but I think we have a deep field, and I don't think we should have coordination like y'all did. We should have open primary. All of our deep.
I'm surprised they are more open to JD Vance. Whatever.
It should just be Vance Rubio. Have a debate. Let them all talk like we did.
I think I have a list on my phone of 20 to 25 people. I think Will. No, not the list now. I think Will.
Hassan Barker. Abdul Hassan. No, it's gonna be. He's probably gonna say AOC. Who else would he say? I don't know. Because Bernie's way too old, and a lot of the other like progressive candidates just aren't really positioned to be president.
Run for president. I think there's a lot of good options. I'm gonna go John Ossoff, maybe J.D. Pritzker. I wouldn't mind Kamala Harris.
Okay, J.B. Pritzker. Oh no, Kamala Harris. Oh, okay. Damn. Well, I'm surprised he didn't get AOC, but.
I think we covered a lot of ground. I think everybody at this table probably agrees that there's more we wanted to cover. But the fact that we got this much in is a testament to our democracy and free speech and open debate.
I 100% second that. I think it was a good conversation. Started off a little rocky, but we got our heads straight, and I do think we had some productive dialogue. It was fun. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I love debating, and this was fun. You guys are fun to debate with, so I would do it again. I would do it again.
I agree.
Sure.
I think it's awesome.
Wow.
We have more to continue. We can keep talking. I think people hopefully at home watching can look at this and say, we saw them as political.
Okay. I do have work tomorrow, so we're gonna check. We'll check in on our buddies if there's anything really interesting happening. Okay, maybe we'll talk to them, but I still have laundry to do. Still probably should eat before I go to bed.
The guy had a firearm, but also I'm pretty sure that the
I'm wrong about.
On there, they're not old enough, but
who's requesting?
Well,
yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
100% able to get Medicare. So because I get Medicare, I have to have Social Security because how do you pay for Medicare?
No, what I mean by like is there's people. Well, yeah, there's people who like are literally who don't meet like the majority of the requirement that Social Security entails. Like,
well. Tally for life.
Okay.
Words I'm saying.
I've told you like 3 times English isn't my first language. Like, I don't.
All right. Okay, people. I'm gonna head out. I will probably stream again tomorrow. But I do have work tomorrow as well. It might be in the morning. or it might be another late and kind of a short stream. But yeah, love streaming. Love you guys watch this stream. No one really to send you to, seemingly. So yeah, okay. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, check out the Discord, check out all my Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Kick, all that good stuff. So yeah, appreciate it. See you guys tomorrow. I think I don't have any plans, but you know, as always, I'm reaching out to people. I'm trying to set things up, things of that nature. So